Hey team, in this training and in this training section, we're going to be talking about which booking calendar to use, aka which scheduler to use, because remember, both of those things mean the same thing. A booking calendar and a scheduler are the same thing. So if you remember in a previous training, we did go ahead and talk about the difference between a central calendar versus a booking calendar. Do you remember the difference? So we said that a central calendar is the calendar that goes ahead and houses all of your meetings, all of your appointments, both for personal and professional, right? And so we went ahead and walked you through how to go ahead and get Google Calendar set up. And then a booking calendar, we said, is a software that allows you to be able to have people to book appointments with you, and it integrates with your central calendar, and it's mainly used for business and professional purposes. Okay, so we went ahead and talked about what that booking calendar was in the past and exactly how it integrates with your central calendar. Now, what I want to go ahead and do right now very quickly is I want to go ahead and emphasize why it's so important to actually use a booking calendar scheduler, okay? Because what's going to happen is that as you deal with clients, it's going to be your clients or prospects or people who want to join your program or join your company or become a customer. It's going to be like, hey, what time are you available on Friday for a consultation call or a onboarding call or anything like that? And then you get crickets and silence, right? And then 3 hours later, the client says, how's 2 p.m. on Friday? And then you're like, okay, then you're messaging them back like 2 hours later. Yo, sorry, I have an existing appointment. What about 4 p.m.? And then another 3 hours goes by. And then it's like client's like, no, you know what? Sorry, I can't do 4 p.m. You know what? I don't think this is working. Like maybe we try next week. We'll see what happens. Like talk to you later. Bye. And then you lose that focus, you lose that attention. It just adds so much more friction. And so manually scheduling appointments, which is this entire process here, is one of the biggest headaches in all of business and when dealing with clients if you don't have a scheduler or a booking software to be able to do that, right? Because what ends up happening is that you end up spending more and more time just trying to do this stuff rather than being able to go ahead and focus on the marketing and sales. So you don't want to be busy with the admin or the administration or the operations of your business. You want to actually be running or working on your business, right? And so scheduling and managing and schedulers and all that kind of stuff, this is one of the biggest areas where, especially health and wellness professionals, they fail to automate and streamline their business. And so they end up getting so much time wasted. And so where automated calendars, digital scheduling tools, and schedulers that we're going to be walking you through, what they really do is they come in to be able to help organize your appointments and make things faster. They integrate with existing calendars so that way they know exactly what's already happening in your personal life and those appointments to not let clients be able to book on top of those. And then on top of that, a good booking calendar software, another good scheduler, what it does is it also sends reminders to clients so that way they do not forget. This is a huge one. This is so important. Being able to have the customization and the flexibility to be able to go ahead and specify exactly what the reminder cadence is going to look like is going to make a day and night difference as to whether or not people actually show up to their appointments, because quite frankly, we're all human and we forget, right? And especially when you're dealing with clients, they forget especially, right? And so you got to be able to go ahead and remind them that. So that and so much more is what a scheduler booking calendar software that allows you to be able to run your business so smoothly. And so this is the reason why the top business owners, the real business owners who are understanding like, hey, they are not like those, lower level sophisticated individuals who are like, you know what, I'm not going to use any calendar at all, or I'm just going to write stuff down in a notebook. Right? That works if you're not a business owner, you got a 9 to 5, you don't have a lot going on. Like, okay, cool, that's fine, right? But the thing is that as you become more and more advanced in the game of business, you got to be able to have both a central calendar and a booking calendar that are going to be working hand in hand, especially as you as a business owner start to get more and more busy and you start to be able to go ahead and meet with leads and prospects and customers, right? So the more professional that your business becomes, especially in this industry and the industry that you're going into or the industry that you are in, the more you're going to actually be meeting with people. And you know what? Maybe it's not always meeting with, leads and prospects, because you might be able to get to the point where you have employees who are doing that. But for sure, you're going to be meeting with partners and relationships and team members and employees. And so you need to be able to have a way to be able to manage and organize your time. And that's the reason why a booking calendar, a scheduler, is so important. Now, you hear us throw around these terms a lot, right? We say booking calendar versus scheduler. What the heck is the dang difference between the two? The answer is there is no difference. So please do not be confused by this. You're going to hear us sometimes talk about it as booking calendar, and sometimes you hear us talk about it as scheduler. They are exactly the same thing. They're just different words for the same thing. It can just sometimes be confusing because inside of, booking calendar softwares, sometimes they'll call them calendars, right? And so therefore it's like, okay, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a central calendar? Are we talking about a booking calendar? And so that's why sometimes using the word scheduler is easier to understand, because of the fact that it's just completely different. It doesn't use the word calendar, so it's easier to understand how that works. But again, please don't be confused. You might hear us sometimes call it booking calendar. Sometimes you might hear it called scheduler. But again, scheduler is exactly what it sounds like. It's a software that schedules appointments for you, so that way you don't have to be playing phone tag in order to meet with someone. Now, to close off this training, we are going to go ahead and address the question, which is a very important question, which is, hey, which scheduler are you going to use? Which booking calendar are you going to use, right? And so we talked about this in the previous training back when we were talking about central calendars as well, is that there are literally hundreds of different scheduler softwares that are out on the market, like literally tons of them, right? There's like Mindbody, and there's Calendly, and there's Vagaro, and there's Acuity Scheduling, and all of that kind of stuff. However, you know what our philosophy already is when we talk about starting a business, right? We talk about, hey, it's got to be cost effective. This is very important for us, right? When you're starting out a business, you don't want to be out there just spending a bunch of money randomly, right? It has to be cost effective, and then it has to be a part of a system. It has to work together. Because the thing is that if you go out there and sign up to a bunch of different softwares that are going to cost you not only an arm and a leg, but then on top of that, they don't actually work together. And then you're still paying $400 plus per month. And then they're not even all working together as a business platform. And so please bear with me for just a second here, ladies and gentlemen, because I know I'm literally beating the dead horse unicorn over here, but we have a saying that in education, they say humans need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. And I want to go ahead and get through to anyone who was like, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Or, hey, I'm sorry, I got a little bit confused here. I went ahead and did something else. Or, oh, my bad, I didn't fully understand. So bear with me here. Let's run it one more time so that way we can make this very, very clear, okay? We have gotten through too many students who say, hey, I went through this hodgepodge of getting my domain name from X, my website from Y, my invoicing software on Z, my CRM is on A, my calendar is on B, my scheduler is on C. How do I connect all of them together? At this point, because I know you are an awesome student who's been following along through every single one of the steps that we've been going through here, you get this point, right? You understand what we're saying here, which is, hey, you do not want that Frankenstein monster. You need a system that actually works all together and not just a software, because here's the thing, and this is the other part that a lot of people don't understand. It's like, oh, yeah, but there's a business platform that I can just find, and this is. No. Wait a second. The business platform has to go along with the strategy. This is very important. The software is just a tool. What you need is the support along with the tool to understand how the system is actually going to work, how the strategy is all going to come together. So that way you have the foundations of a business that can actually grow to $10,000 plus per month. And so that is our mission here. That is what we're working on doing. So that way you have the highest level of success. You have the highest probability of success, right? What we can say is, hey, we can't tell you that this is going to work 100% for 100% of the people, but what we can tell you, this is going to give you the biggest and best chance to be able to get that success because of the fact that we have done it ourselves. This is a system that we use ourselves. We've taught it to other people, and the other people have been successful with this as well. And so the thing is that we can only support you with a system that we have used ourselves, and that is the way that we're going to go ahead and recommend it. Because the thing is that if you go out there and try to piecemeal your own system together and you don't understand it, we don't understand it, then guess what? You're not going to be able to get the help that you need. And I'm sorry I have to keep repeating this on every single training, but the reason I have to keep repeating it on every single training is because when we get on coaching calls with people, we get on onboarding calls with people, they simply don't understand this. And so I have to repeat myself every single dang training. So that way I hope somebody will finally please be able to understand this extremely clearly, because not every student is like you, because I know you listening to this right now, this is not you, but there's a lot of students who aren't like you who don't get it. And that's why I'm going ahead and making this extremely clear for them, right? And so this is the reason why we're going to go ahead and walk you through using the Client Kit platform as the foundation of this entire system, right? That's the reason why we work so hard to get that Client Kit partnership in place. So that way it was effortless for you to be able to have a system to be able to run your business the right way. And then later on, when we talk about, hey, being able to send emails and do SMS text messages reminders and being able to do all of that, unless you have it all housed within a business system. But then remember what I said, it's not just the business system, okay? It is also the strategy, right? So our friend over here, he says, hey, you got to understand this, right? This is big brain talk going on here. Not only is it the system, but it's also the strategy. This is why you're going through these trainings in the way that you are. It's like, okay, once this business basic foundation foundation system is set up. What is the strategy? How do I actually use this to go out and do marketing and sales? How do I actually use this now in order to actually be able to run paid advertising, or how to be able to run organic advertising, or in order to grow my audience? How do I use this system now? It has to be all together. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the actual way to be able to think about this. And so I really, really appreciate you putting up with me having repeat this in like literally every dang training. So that way it's extremely clear for everyone. And so with that being said, now let's go ahead and talk about what this training is going to be about. So what we're about to do right now is we're going to go ahead and walk you through all of the different steps on getting your schedule or getting your booking calendar set up, because of the fact that you have already gone ahead and gotten your Google Calendar set up. So make sure if you haven't done that, please follow instructions. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to repeat myself for the gazillionth time again. Please make sure you follow the exact trainings in order, because there is a method to the madness. Make sure at this point you have your central calendar, your Google Calendar set up the way that we have told you to set it up, because we are going to be leveraging that. We are going to be using that as a stepping stone, as a foundation of getting your scheduler set up. Okay. And then in the next couple training sections, we're going to be walking you through step by step by step exactly how you're going to be able to go ahead and get your scheduler set up. And we're going to walk you through exactly how it's going to look inside of your ClientKit account. So that way you can go out there and actually start scheduling appointments with clients, with prospects, start doing marketing and sales, because you have a system that is paired with the right strategy. So with that being said, make sure you do follow the step by step. There's going to be quite a few steps for getting your scheduler set up. So make sure you follow them exactly the way that we have outlined inside. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, has been the intro training for the business scheduler. And so that way we went ahead and addressed some of the limiting beliefs and some of the concerns and some of the questions that students have as they start this process. And now with that being said, let's go ahead and start getting into the tactical of getting your booking calendar, your schedule set up. So that way you understand exactly how this works. We're going to go ahead and catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section where we are going to go ahead and talk about one of the first steps of getting everything set up for your scheduler, and that's going to be integrating your Google Calendar, which is going to be your central calendar. So we're going to go ahead and break this training up into 3 parts. Part 1 is going to be integrate, part 2 is going to be sync settings, and then part 3 is going to be testing the sync. Don't worry, super easy, super simple. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through it right now. Let's go ahead and jump into part number 1, which is going to be to integrate. Now, I do want to go ahead and remind you, it's going to be very important throughout this entire training that we go ahead and do, is that you do want to make sure that you are using your Google Chrome profile. If you don't know what that is, if you didn't have that set up, make sure you go back and check out that training in which we went ahead and walked you through setting up your Google Chrome profile. And specifically, you want to make sure that you are using your work Google Chrome profile, right? So in this case, I went ahead and went with the @Gmail route. I got nutrifitwellnessteam@gmail.com, and then that is located as work. Obviously, you're going to have other profiles for your personal. And then the cool thing is that you can actually go ahead and bookmark the ClientKit login, so that just like that, boom, one click, you'll be able to go ahead and get into your business platform from there. Okay, so Google Chrome profile, make sure you have ClientKit bookmarks. It's going to be easy for you. What we're going to go ahead and do in order to set up this integration between your central calendar and your business platform is we're going to go over to settings at the bottom left. And then once we click on settings, from there, we're going to go ahead and go down over to integrations. Okay, so right over here, we're going to go down over here to integrations. Boom, just like that. And then once we click on integrations, we're going to go ahead and find the Google integration. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so that way we can see a little bit better here. Okay, so we're going to find the Google integration. Now, in this case, you'll see because this is a test account, I already have something here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and disconnect this very quickly so I can show you what this is going to look like probably on your screen. Okay, so it's going to look just like that. And then what you do is you click on sign in with Google, and it's going to show up a screen here. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and sign in to your actual Google account that is your business Google account. Okay, now for those of you who went with the @domainname.com option, this is probably going to be support@domainname.com. And then for those of you who went with the @Gmail route, that is going to be the @Gmail. That is your business @Gmail that you have, right? So over here, you see we have NutriFit Wellness, NutriFit Wellness Team @gmail.com. I go ahead and click on that. From there, it's going to go ahead and say continue. And then from there, we go down and we click on allow. And then once we go ahead and click on that, it is going to go ahead and take a second to load. And then right here, we can just go ahead and click close. And just like that, you will see that now the Google account is actually integrated with the actual business platform ClientKit. Super simple, super easy, right? So now we're going to go ahead and proceed. We've now gone ahead and finished part one, which was integrating. We're now going to go ahead and go over to sync settings. So what sync settings is going to do is going to allow us to be able to specify exactly how the integration between Google Calendar and ClientKit is going to work. So we're going to go ahead and walk you through that right now. What we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and go over to calendars here inside of settings. Okay, so right over here, calendars. Okay, so we're here still under settings. We click on calendars. Now, alternatively, if you were on the main screen, another way that you could do that is you click on calendars here and then click calendar settings there, and that'll just take you to the exact same place, right? So again, same thing, potato, same way to be able to get to where it is that you're looking to get to, okay? From there, once you're under calendar settings, you're then going to go ahead and click on connections here at the top. And then once you click on connections, you're going to see that it gives you an option to have main integration calendar here, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and right over here, we're going to go ahead and select the main calendar, which is probably going to have one option on there. So it's going to be the NutriFit Wellness Team at gmail.com. In your case, it's going to be whatever the calendar name, the main calendar name, right? So if I go over to calendar.google.com, you'll see here, NutriFit Wellness is the name of this calendar. And so whatever that main calendar is going to be the one that you're going to integrate right there. Then right now, you don't have the way to do two-way sync right now, but we're going to leave that off. And then we're going to go ahead and click on save from there. Once that has actually saved, we are going to also go ahead and scroll down just a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and make sure that the calendar that we're checking for conflicts. So what's going to show up on here, and let me explain to you what this means. So this is going to be whenever ClientKit is looking to go ahead and book an appointment on your scheduler, it's going to look at these calendars to see if there is any conflicts with the timing that somebody is booking, right? So what you're going to notice is, I know it's a little bit hard to see here, but the gray on this calendar right over here is going to be a little bit lighter because this is automatically, since this is the main central calendar here, right? The main integration calendar, this is already blocked off, right? So if I go ahead and scroll in, if you zoom in a little bit, you'll see it's a little bit, it doesn't allow me to select because of the fact that it is a little bit lighter gray. That means that this is already by default checking for conflicts on this calendar, right? Now, of course, if I wanted to add birthdays or if I wanted to add holidays or something, you could do that. However, we are not going to do that. We would recommend you not do that. The only time that this would be beneficial is, let's say, for example, you did end up sharing a personal calendar, right? So let's say over here, you had a personal calendar. I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you an example here, right? So if I went over to here, I'm going to go to other calendars. I'm going to create a new calendar. And let's say I created a personal calendar here, right? And then I created a create calendar right there, just like that. And then let's say, for example, this personal calendar was shared. Right over here, you'll see that I have personal calendar, and then this personal calendar, let's say hypothetically, was shared with my personal Gmail, right? So that way I'm able to go ahead and use it on my personal Google Chrome profiles as well, right? So over here, it'd be logged in with my personal, so that way I have an integration there, right? Then what I would do is I would come over here, let me zoom out so you can see, I would go ahead and refresh, and then hypothetically, this is not what you're going to do. I'm just kind of walking you through how you can think through this, right? What would happen is that you'd come down over here and you'll see, oh, we're going to not only look at it on NutriFit Wellness Team, but we're also going to look at it on the personal calendar, and I can turn that on as well. So that way it's going to check for conflict on the main integration calendar, which is already checked off. I know it doesn't look checked off, but it is checked off because I can't check it any longer. And then I'm also going to check for conflicts on my personal calendar. So that's just an example of how you would be able to go ahead and set it up. So that way the scheduler can look for conflicts there. Now, when you do something like that, it does allow you now to be able to turn on two-way sync. However, our recommendation would be not to turn on two-way sync. Do not turn this on, okay? And the reason we say that is because if you turn this on, what that's going to happen is that it's going to, every single event that you create here, let's say like lunch or gym or something, it's going to create an appointment inside of the system for a specific contact with lunch or gym or something like that. So you want to go ahead and leave this off. That's going to be very important. And then once you've gone ahead and done this, you've saved over here, you know, if you have a personal calendar, you want to go ahead and turn that on over there. That's perfectly fine as well. However, again, our recommendation is probably just keep one calendar. So our recommendation probably not even to be to have a personal calendar, just keep everything on one calendar unless you know what it is that you are doing. Okay. So then that is going to be, we've talked about integrate, we talked about sync settings. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about testing the sync, because now that you have the sync set up, what's going to happen here is that if I go back over here and then I go over here to the calendars tab, okay, now we're going to have an entire training section that's going to walk you through what the entire calendars tab is and all the additional functionality for this, okay? But for right now, what I want to go ahead and walk you through is that what we're going to test, and you'll see on here, we actually have some of those previous events that we've already created. You'll see that we can't actually delete these events because these are Google Calendar events. And you'll see on here, it says Google Calendar. It gives us a kind of indication on here that that is a Google Calendar calendar event. So already we see that the sync is working in some way, but what we want to do is we want to go ahead and test it in a big way. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Google Calendar, and I'm just going to go ahead and let's say I'm going to make an appointment here, and I'm going to just call this Client Kit Test from Google Calendar, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over to Client Kit, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And once I refresh, I'm going to go ahead and wait for a second to see if that appointment actually shows up here, right? So we booked it on the Thursday over here. So it might take maybe a minute or two. And what you got to do is you might have to go ahead and refresh the browser over here. And then boom, just like that. You see it took maybe a minute or so, but you'll see Client Kit Test from Google Calendar. So that does mean that the sync is working, and we've gone ahead and made it so that way any appointments that are created here on the actual central calendar are going to go ahead and show up on this calendar as well. Now, if that did not show up for you, you want to go back to the previous part when we talk about the sync settings and the integrations and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously reach out inside of the community so that way if somebody has already figured this out or they can help you, they can make sure that they are providing you that support via the community. Now, the other quick questions that we have on here are going to be, hey, what about integrations with other calendars? Now, ultimately, of course, this is what the system that we have that has worked. This is the system that we have tried that has worked. We know exactly what this looks like down the road and in the future. So this is the reason why we recommend Google Calendar as a central calendar, because it's one of the easiest, in our opinion, to go ahead and get set up. And that's exactly the system that we've used in our businesses, as well as all of the hundreds and thousands of students that we have taught over the years. This is the system that we've used. Okay, so again, totally up to you. However, Google Calendar is going to be our strong recommendation for this. Okay, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been this step on integrating your Google Calendar with the Client Kit platform, and then as well as getting the sync settings right dialed in, as well as testing that sync. We're not done yet. We got a bunch of other steps in order to help you go ahead and get your scheduler set up. So with that being said, we will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this next step of getting your scheduler set up. We're going to go ahead and walk you through the global calendar settings. There are going to be two parts for this: the calendar preferences that are global, and then the calendar availability that is global. Let's go ahead and jump right into it for calendar preferences that are global. So preferences on a global level are going to allow you to be able to control two things. Number one, it's going to allow you to control where your meeting locations are going to be, as well as what those internal widget calendar settings are going to be. Okay, so I don't know what that means. Let's just go ahead and do it, because this is the important part of making sure that this is set up properly. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the calendar tab, and then we're going to go ahead and click on calendar settings, or you can also go to settings over here and then click on calendars from there. Next up from there, we're going to go ahead and click on preferences, which is this button right over here. Now, right over here, you're going to see we have my preferences and account preferences. Okay, so right over here, this is going to be the meeting location and then the custom meeting location here, right? So let's say, for example, you are going to be setting where your appointments are going to be in general. Now, you can also control this on the individual scheduler and calendar level. So over here, you can see over here, we got custom, Google Meet, phone, and full address, right? So in this case, let's say hypothetically, you were going to go ahead and do this via Google Meet. You could go ahead and have that set up there. And then when you do Google Meet here, it's going to allow you here under my profile to go ahead and set up a Zoom integration over here if that's what you're doing. Or it is also then Google Meet is actually by default inside of all Google Calendar events. And so this is going to just automatically create, I think pretty much for free, a Google Meet invitation whenever that appointment is created, right? So again, this is not going to be something specifically if there is use cases that, you know, the community needs, or if somebody finds a very useful way on how they're running their business, we can go ahead and share that here. But for the most part, you don't have to overstress. This is going to be pretty much, you can do a custom, and then if you really want, you can maybe even leave it blank. Let's see if I could do that. Yeah, it looks like you can do that as well, right? So again, you can, and then also do phone or full address, whatever that is, okay? Then over there, next up we have is account preferences. So week starts on, you can go ahead and change that if you'd like. For us, it's always going to be Sunday. English time format, we're going to go ahead and do it as 24, not 24-hour time, we're going to do 12-hour time with AM and PM, and then the view options on there, save preferences. So again, these are going to be pretty standard, but you just want to kind of know where they are. So that is going to be your global preferences, okay? So preferences, my preferences, and account preferences. Next up, we're going to have calendar availability, and that's going to be the next immediate section right there, the tab that is clicked right there. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then you'll see that we have my availability and account availability. Now, the ClientKit team right now is working on getting account availability out. It's not that big of a deal because we've always run it just through my availability. Now, over here, what we're going to do, and this is, we're going to have a whole entire section on this when we talk about managing availability in a little bit. But what I want to talk to you about here is that this over here is your availability that you want to kind of set based off of your Google Calendar and based off of the available times that you have in general, right? So in this example over here, this is starting from 6:30 a.m. all the way to 6:30 p.m., right? So what's going to happen is that you don't have to worry. It's not going to be like you're going to get appointments booked throughout that, but you want to make sure that whatever time you're starting your workday, that is what time this morning block is set for, right? So you kind of make it sure here in Google Calendar, I can make sure that this is for all events. I can make it from 7, let's say hypothetically to 7 to 7 is, let's say, what I wanted to do this, or let's say 7 to 6 maybe. Yeah, let's do 7 to 6. And I'm going to go ahead and change this over here and 11:55 p.m., right? So 11:55 p.m. save to all events. Okay, cool. So whatever might be here. So let's say we're going to do some 7 to 6 p.m. So, and on Sundays, I'm not going to work. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set this from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click copy to all. And it's going to allow me to go ahead and have that wide open. And then let's say on Saturdays, though, I'm going to have an exception where Saturdays is going to be from, let's just say 9 a.m. to, let's just say 3 p.m. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and save availability. Now we're going to have an entire separate training on this, like I said, for managing availability and the best practices for managing availability. But for right now, what you want to know is that it is best to go ahead and leave this as wide open as possible. Like even if honestly, you wanted to go ahead and leave the Saturday open, you could go ahead and do that if you really wanted to. So that way on the ClientKit side, it's wide open, but then you can always go ahead and control it over here, right? So let's say, for example, on Saturday, I did not want anybody to be able to book. So I could just go ahead and block this off and say, cool, I'm going to do from, let's say 9. So this is going to be Saturday morning block off, right? So I could put it over here. And then over here, it would be up until, let's say 3, right? So it'd be Saturday afternoon block off or something, right? So you could go ahead and control it over here. Again, don't worry about that right now. I'm kind of just planting the seed, and then we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so we got a global availability. In the guide, we walk you through this as well. But again, you just want to understand where the availability is for you to be able to control it on the global level. And that's it. That's literally this step when it comes to actually setting your calendar preferences globally and then your calendar availability globally. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Global calendar settings is now done. Make sure you go ahead and hit save. But again, we're not done yet. We got to go ahead and now walk you through step by step to creating your actual booking calendar. We will catch you in the next step. All right, welcome to this step of getting your schedule set up. You are doing a phenomenal job of absolutely demolishing and crushing these trainings one by one by one. It's now time finally to go ahead and create an actual booking calendar, a scheduler inside of ClientKit. So what we're going to go ahead and do is inside of this specific training section, we're going to walk you through how to actually create a scheduler in general. Okay, so that way you have an idea of, hey, if you were going to create a scheduler in general, what it is going to look like. And then in a later training section, okay, so right now you're in the training and then you're in an earlier training section. In a later training section towards the end of this entire training, we're going to be walking you through how to create specific schedulers, right? So specific schedulers, like you're going to create a consultation calendar, an onboarding calendar, an in-person calendar, a coaching call calendar. All of these are very specific and have specific settings for each of the different use cases. But for this training section, I'm going to be walking you through exactly what that looks like in general. So make sure you are following along. This is not something that you just go ahead and like watch and then that's it. No. This is a tactical training that you need to make sure that you're pausing, doing the action, pausing, doing the action. You are doing it as you are going through this entire training section. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into actually creating a booking calendar. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go over to ClientKit. We're then going to go over to calendar settings. You can do that by either going to calendars and then calendar settings, or going to settings and then going to calendars from there. From there, we are going to go ahead and be on the calendars tab right here, which is the first tab on the calendar setting. Now, you're going to see I have a bunch of test random calendars here. You can go ahead and ignore this. You probably are not going to have them. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete them right now real quick. Boom, just like that. You see, this is probably what yours is going to look like. Maybe, maybe not. You might have a test calendar in there, maybe not, right? It just depends on when that actual snapshot when your account is created. Sometimes we go ahead and, depending on what you're watching this training, sometimes we're going to go ahead and import stuff into your account. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to go ahead and create a new calendar. Now, remember, and we've talked about this in the past, there's a difference between a central calendar and a booking calendar. And I know it gets a little bit confusing, and unfortunately they don't use the word scheduler, because really what we're doing is we're creating a scheduler, which is going to be a booking calendar. So we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and click on new calendar. And then over here, you're going to see scheduling type. Now, don't get overwhelmed by this. Don't get confused by this. This is the reason why we're walking you through a system and a strategy, because the recommendation that we're going to have for you is to go ahead and create a round robin calendar. Now, all of these other ones, sometimes they become more advanced. Sometimes there's specific use cases for them. When we actually talk about the advanced calendar options training section later on, we will be walking you through some of the other use cases for this on how you can use these for your business. But for the purposes of most, I would say 80% plus of your calendars are typically going to be round robin calendars. So we're going to go ahead and select round robin. And then from there, it's going to go ahead and give us some options that we need to select over here. So in this case, because this is going to be just a general calendar for right now, because remember, we're walking you through this. And again, this is what you're following on your side as well. In the guide, you'll see we have some potential recommendations for this first calendar. You can call it a one-on-one consultation, game plan session, strategy session, whatever you want to call it. So in this case, I'm going to call this NutriFit Wellness, and I'm going to probably put in the beginning of it, let's put one-on-one consult. Okay, one-on-one consult is what I'm going to go ahead and put it, and I'm going to call this NutriFit Wellness. And you can add a description if you want. You cannot add a description if you want, no problem. Select team members. You're going to select yourself from this drop down, so whatever your username is going to show up there. Then you're going to go ahead and set a custom URL. Again, this doesn't really make that big of a difference. You can kind of just make it based off of the name over here. So let's just go ahead and put, in this case, I'm going to put one-on-one NutriFit. So that's going to be there. Now the meeting duration here, again, we're just walking you through the example settings, so that way you know where all of the actual settings are. So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and set this at 45 minutes. And then the booking availability, sure, we're going to make it Monday through, let's say, Saturday. And then right over here, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., no problem. Accept payments, I'm going to leave that off for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on advanced settings, or you can also go ahead and click on confirm. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on advanced settings. And then it's going to show up here, and you'll see I have meeting details, availability, forms and payments, notifications and additional options, and customization. So let's go through each of these one by one. Calendar logo, if you wanted to go ahead and upload a calendar logo, that's going to be there. That's that calendar name that we had earlier. Group, you can go ahead and ignore group. We don't usually use group right now. In the future, we'll talk to you about some of the advanced use cases for group if necessary. Meeting invite title, this is going to be actually very helpful, because what we want to do is that this is how it's going to show up in Google Calendar once it actually books here. So what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put contact name, and then I usually put the name of the calendar over here, so that way it's clear. So that way it'll say, like, you know, Tina Smith, that'll be the contact's name, whoever booked, and it'll be like one-on-one NutriFit consult, right? Or one-on-one consult if you don't want to, because this is going to be kind of your own name, or this is going to also show up for the prospect. So you can go ahead and put NutriFit consult if you want. Optimize availability, no issues there. Event color, we can go ahead and leave that blue. From there, we're going to go over to availability. This is where we're going to control the availability for this scheduler. But remember, when you actually book from this, it is going to first check to see, is there any overlapping in your central calendar, right? And so what's happening here is that you can go ahead and really pretty much leave this also open if you really wanted to, because then it's going to give the person time to be able to book on any one of these slots, except it's not going to allow them to book on the slots that are booked off there, right? So again, this is going to be specific to different calendars, how you're going to do it, but we just want to walk you through where it is. This is if you're going to have a recurring meeting. Let's say this is going to be, you know, somebody's going to meet with you regularly every single week, every single day, whatever it might be. You can go ahead and select that over there. Then meeting interval over here. So meeting duration, meeting interval is basically when you actually show up on the calendar. What I'm going to do here, and this is probably a good idea for me to walk you through here, is I'm going to go ahead and hold command, and then I'm going to go ahead and open in another tab here. And what I want to do is, you'll see I'm going to have my calendar here. I'm going to show you, this is a little bit more advanced. We're going to get to this in a little bit. You don't have to do this, but I just want to show you what I mean by this, because when it actually loads, meeting interval means that, do you want to show the 30-minute blocks underneath here, right? So it says right now it shows, you know, if somebody selected on February 21st, they wanted to go ahead and meet with me, they can select 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., 10 a.m., right? Let's say, for example, I didn't want that to be the case. I only wanted it to show up on the top of the hour. I can change the meeting interval there. I hit save, And then I go back over here to this kind of link here. Again, you don't have to know where this is. I just went through that very quickly. We'll walk you through that in an upcoming training, but I just want to show you what the end result would look like here, right? So right here, you'll see now they don't have the option to book with me at 9:30 a.m. It's only at the top of the hour, right? And then obviously you can go ahead and change that if you wanted to make it 15 minutes, you could do that as well. But again, we're just showing you where the settings are. And then once we get into the specific calendars, we'll show you exactly how to set those specific ones up, okay? Minimum scheduling notice. This one right over here is going to be, hey, how far minimum do they need to actually book out for? This is going to be the minimum amount of time that they can book as soon as, right? So right now you'll see, for example, right now there's no minimum scheduling notice on here. So therefore they can book on the very exact same day. So in my opinion, I prefer at least a 1 day's notice, right? So if I put 1 day on there, you'll see if I hit save, and then I go ahead and refresh this, it's now not going to allow them to book on that 20th, right? It doesn't even allow them to book on the 21st because of the fact that it's assuming that it's going to be, the next day as well, because 1 day includes the next day after that, right? So what I'm going to do is typically I do like to go ahead and do something like 12 hours is my preference. So if I go ahead and hit save there, and then it will allow them to book on the 21st. If I go ahead and refresh this page, boom, you'll see that it does allow them to now book on the 21st, right? So that is going to be that setting there. Date range, this is going to be how far out they can actually book, because right now you'll see that they can pretty much book months and months out, right? Somebody can book with you, forever, like all the way into 10 years from now. So what you can do is you can go ahead and set this to say, you know what, the maximum somebody can book out is going to be, let's say 7 days out, right? So if I go ahead and hit save now, and then you'll see if I go ahead and refresh over here, it is now only going to allow them to book out 7 days out. Now, if I go to next month, you'll see that it says there's no slots available because that is the maximum amount that they are allowed to be able to book out for, which is going to be 7 days, okay? Maximum bookings per day, that's going to be if you want to have a maximum number of bookings per day, maximum bookings per slot per user. Again, they have these little information icons here. You can go ahead and read up on those. Buffer time in between appointments. You just want to know where all of these are. So that way, once we actually get into the specific calendars, we're going to walk you through some of these more specific steps then. From there, you got forms and payments. So this is going to be if you're going to be accepting payments, and then you want to go ahead and have this actually be a form as well. So you can actually go ahead and set that up here. And then of course, if you wanted to have like a custom form here, this is a little bit more advanced. I'm just going to plant the seed here, but you could always go into sites, forms, builder, create a custom form, and then link that custom form into a calendar as well. Again, don't blow your brain yet. This is just planting seeds. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do to get fancy, but we're not going to go ahead and worry about this too much right now. I just want to go ahead and show you where that is. Notifications and additional options. So this is going to be whenever they book an appointment, what is the type of notification that they're going to get, right? And then who should receive this notification as well. And then typically we do want to go ahead and keep this on, which is allow Google Calendar to send invitation or update emails to attendees. This is going to be extremely helpful because it does also then further confirm their appointment by sending them a Google Calendar invitation as well. From here, you can go ahead and control the allow reschedule meeting and allow cancellation meeting. After that, you'll see that we do have additional notes. Now, these additional notes are extremely helpful because what's going to happen, and these right here, these are called custom values, right? You see these brackets, and it's not going to look like that once the actual meeting is created. What it's going to do is it's actually going to show the populated data. So it's going to show the name of the contact information, the email, etc. once you actually do the test on here, right? And then all this information is actually then going to show up in the description of your actual Google Calendar event as well, which is really cool. Okay, so for right now, we're going to leave it how it is, but I just want you to know where it is. So that way, if you ever want to change it, if you ever want to edit it, you can do that there. Next up, we go over to customization. If you wanted to change maybe the color of it, maybe the calendar title, all of that stuff, there's some additional customizations here as well. Specifically, what's important to know here is that this is actually controlling what the widget settings are going to look like. And this is going to be the widget, and I'll show you how to get to the widget later on. You might have seen it how I did it earlier. But the point being is that let's say, for example, you didn't want to show the calendar title or something like that, right? So the calendar title, if you didn't want to show that, you can just go ahead and check that off there, hit save. And then if I go ahead and refresh over here, you'll see that it now actually hides the calendar title, right? Which I don't know why you would want to do, but let's say, for example, you did want to do that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on again. And then I'm going to go ahead and you can always preview the widget here as well to see what that would look like based off of the settings that you are putting on there. Of course, they also allow you to go ahead and change the colors over here. If you want to go ahead and change them, let's say you wanted like a red color, and then you go ahead and hit preview widget, it will show you the actual red color that is on here as well. So a lot of cool kind of customization that you can play around with. But the point being that I wanted to walk you through, this is very important, is if I hit save, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, if you followed through this entire training section, you now have your first booking calendar. You have your first scheduler now created, which is really, really awesome. And then down the road, what we're going to do in an upcoming training section, we're going to walk you through exactly how to book appointments on this scheduler. You did see how I did it earlier. There is a share button on here, and then you're going to have a schedule link and a permanent link. We'll walk you through all of this, one-time link, embed codes, all of this fancy schmancy stuff. We're going to walk you through it later on. Inside of the guide for this specific training section as well, we actually have a written version of all of the different kind of walkthrough that I went ahead and walked you through inside of this training video. But we're not done yet. And remember, like I said, the actual specific booking calendar, specifically like consultation, onboarding, in-person calendar, there's going to be some more specific settings that we are going to walk you through as a part of the strategy. Because remember, ClientKit is just a tool. You need the strategy that goes along with the tool, so that way you understand in your industry what is the best use practices, the pro tips that are going to allow you to get the most benefit out of the tool. So we're going to walk you through exactly how to set those specific calendars up in an upcoming training section. However, you want to make sure that you do not skip to that right now, because every single training right now that we're walking you through, you want to pause, follow along, go through the settings. Don't just watch this video, because I'm telling you, it's going to go in your head, go through one ear and out the other. You want to make sure that you're following along and having created your general calendar, because we're actually going to be piggybacking off of this later on. Okay, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're not completely done yet. However, we are making progress. You're doing an amazing job here. Keep the momentum going. We're done with this step in terms of creating a booking calendar. Now we're going to go ahead and proceed with the rest of the scheduler setup. We will catch you in the next training section. Hey team, welcome to this training section where we are going to be talking about understanding the calendar tab inside of ClientKit. This is going to be so important because we are actually going to be continuously, regularly, consistently using the calendar tab inside of ClientKit. And so in this tech tutorial, we're going to actually make sure that you understand what all of the different pieces of the calendar tab inside of ClientKit are. So that way, when we actually go ahead and use it in the upcoming training sections, you are extremely familiar with that. And so our goal is to really, for you as a business owner, be empowered in understanding the tools that you're using on a regular basis. So that way, as you're running your business, you're not having to think about, hey, how do I actually do this? What this does is it unlocks in your mind the tools that you need in order to actually run your business. So pay attention. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is going to be the calendar tab tech tutorial. So of course, this goes without saying, you want to make sure that you are inside of your ClientKit account. We're going to be over here under calendars here on the left side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through each of the different parts of this entire calendar tab. So the very first part, you're going to notice it does look very similar to Google Calendar. The only difference here is that this is actually based off of more of a booking calendar-esque, right? So you're going to see here, we have the month, and then we have the arrows that allow us to go back and forth between the months. And then just like in Google Calendar, let me switch over to Google Calendar so I can show you, is just like in Google Calendar, how we have that today button, that if we press that, it brings us back to today. In the same way, we have the today button here on ClientKit as well, that brings us back to the actual week that we are on, right? And then in the same way that we have inside of Google Calendar here on the left side, it shows us kind of an overview of the exact month that we are in. Very similarly, right? So there's a lot of similarity here between ClientKit and Google Calendars, which is awesome because it allows you to be used to it. So that way here on the right side, we have the same thing when it comes to the ClientKit calendar as well. And then we can actually switch between the day, the week, and the month, exactly the same way that we can do inside of Google Calendar as well, right? So month view, week view, day view, right? So exactly the same thing here as well. Now, of course, the difference between Google Calendar and ClientKit here, and this is the reason why Google Calendar is the central calendar and ClientKit is the booking calendar, is that if we hit new, yes, you can actually go ahead and hit, create and then new event over here. But the difference is that this is just creating an event void of what your contacts or your business or your CRM is, right? And so that's the reason why we use ClientKit, is because then we can actually come over here and say, you know what? I'm actually now going to book an appointment with somebody in my contacts. I'm going to book with, John Doe, with Elon Musk, with Dwayne Johnson. All of this is pulling in the actual leads and the actual contacts for your business, right? So if I go over here to contacts, you'll see these are the exact contacts that I have for the business, are the exact contacts that I'm able to go ahead and book appointments with inside of the system. So that way it sends them the automated text messages, the automations, the workflows, all of that, emails, all of that goes ahead and gets set up there, right? So that's the beauty of being able to do it this way. Now, the other thing that we can do is that we can actually create a blocked off time. However, we would recommend not creating block off times here inside of ClientKit. This is the reason why we have the integration, and we would recommend doing blocked off times inside of actually actually Google Calendar the way that we've taught you how to do it before, right? So instead of blocking off time for the gym here inside of ClientKit, we would recommend that you do it inside of Google Calendar because it is going to integrate and sync with ClientKit. Okay, so that is going to be the new button on there. Of course, over here you can see we have, show all, show appointments, show book slots. All of that is going to be there. Now, this is also going to be different. If you have multiple users, if you have multiple team members, you're going to be able to select to see each of their different calendars here. You can also go over to calendars. This is actually going to be calendars. This is kind of a misnomer. This is actually should be schedulers, but the reason it's a booking calendar system, so that's why it's referring to calendars there. So you can see, hey, show me all of the appointments on this specific booking calendar, and we're going to walk you through how to set up booking calendars as well. And then if you have groups set up, that's going to be walking you through groups. Again, we'll walk you through how to set up groups later on as well. Very, very awesome. Over here, you do see that there is a light bulb icon here that kind of walks you through, hey, this is the annotation. So that way, if you do see any appointments that are showing up, let's say you go over to today, I'm going to go over to users, show me John Doe, show me the annotation. It's going to show me, hey, blue means this, white means this, XYZ means this. It goes ahead and shows you all of that. So that way, if you ever kind of need to know what the different icons or the colors and all of that kind of stuff are, it'll show you what the annotation there looks like. Okay. Next up on the calendar tab, we have appointments. Now, appointments, this is if you have booked appointments via your scheduler, via your booking calendar, they will all show up over here. And of course, you can make a new appointment here, and there's many different places to make new appointments. We'll walk you through exactly all those places in the upcoming training section. But I just want you to know that when you have appointments on your calendar, all of those will also show up here, as well as inside of the contact page for each of the different contacts as well. Okay. And then finally, over here, you see at the top, we'd also have calendar settings. This is actually going to take you over to settings and then calendar settings. If I click on it, you'll see that it does take us over to settings, calendars, and then all of our calendar settings are there, as well as any booking or scheduler calendars that we may have already created as well. Now, I'm not going to walk you through all of the calendar settings that are on there. We're going to be walking you through how to set those up in the other training section. So that's not the purpose of this training section, but really, I just wanted you to kind of get an idea and the feel of exactly what the calendar tab looks like. I'm going to zoom out here just a little bit so you can see a little bit more, and you see the entire week is on there, has all the buttons on here. It's going to be a very important tab. You're going to live in this tab quite a bit as you're running your business. So it's very important for you to be familiar with this. The other thing is that all of what I have gone ahead and talked about is located in the guide for this specific training section as well. Now, here's the thing. Is this everything that you will ever have to learn about the calendar tab? No, I didn't dive into all of the nitty gritty kind of, how do you, when you create an appointment, how does that look? What does it, all these different, boxes mean? We're going to do that in other training sections. Obviously, just like some of your favorite apps and companies, they're going to go ahead and update this as well. So maybe by the time you go through this training section, it might look a little bit different as upgrades are made over time. And that's exactly why this is a community-based program, right? We talk about this is a community, this is a community, this is a community. We're all helping each other. We're all learning from each other. You're not going ahead and saying, oh, you know what? Let me just go ahead and wait to be spoon-fed. This is what we have learned so far. Things might change. We might have to learn new things. You're going to have to learn new things. Share them in the community. We can all learn and grow together. What we are sharing with you thus far is just what we have learned thus far from either our own experience or even from other community members. And then as we all learn together, we can go in and update the trainings that are going to be good for the new people who join the community. But obviously for you, as things change, you're going to be able to learn those things from the community directly. Okay. And then obviously you can go ahead and reach out to ClientKit support if you do need additional help with all of this as well. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be understanding the calendar tab and exactly what the calendar tab looks like, how it all works. We're not done with all the steps that we want to go through next. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section where we are going to be walking you through how to actually book appointments on your scheduler, on your booking calendar automatically. Okay, so we're going to divide this training up, and what's going to happen is that in this training, we're going to be talking about how to book appointments automatically, like I said, and then in the next training section or in another training section, we're going to talk about how to book appointments manually. So how to actually manually on your side book appointments with clients, prospects, leads, XYZ, right? So in this specific training section, we're going to talk about how it happens automatically. So that way from the client side, from the lead side, from the prospect side, how they can actually go ahead and book appointments on their end, right? So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. And there are multiple ways that this can actually happen. Specifically, there are two methods, okay? The first method is you can actually go ahead and send a link to a calendar to a prospect, a customer, a client, XYZ. And then method number two is by embedding that calendar into a funnel or into a website. And I'm going to walk you through both both of those very quickly right now. Okay, so method number one is sending the link to the calendar. Now, this is actually one of probably the most popular ways to get an appointment scheduled is by sending that link to a prospect or a lead so that way they can book an appointment. Okay, so let's talk about how this actually happens. What you do is you go over to ClientKit, you go over to calendar settings, or you can go over to settings and then calendars from there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and find the booking calendar or the specific scheduler that you want the link to be able to go ahead and see what that looks like. Now, this is going to be helpful for you as well to test out what it looks like on the client or on the prospect side. So that way it's very clear. You can kind of make sure that that's looking good. What you do is you click on these three dots over here, you click on share, and then you're going to go ahead and see that you have a scheduling link and you have a permanent link. What is the difference between these two? So the scheduling link, this is like the nice cleaned up version. This is the version that has, whatever, one-on-one and NutriFit, right? But the thing is that this slug, this is what they call it, a slug in the domain name right here, right? So the slug in the actual URL, that can actually change, right? Because if you go over here into edit, and then you go into scroll down, you'll see on here the custom URL. If you went ahead and changed this, the problem would be that this right here would also then change within this right over here. And then that's why there is something called a permanent link. And so the permanent link is that no matter if you change the URL slug where I just showed you it was earlier, this permanent link is always going to stay the same, whereas the scheduling link would change. And so this right here is good if you want to just go ahead and, you're sending it off as maybe a, here and there one-off. But if you're like, you know what, I want to actually use this permanent link, maybe in automation, maybe in a email, maybe in SMS, maybe on a funnel, maybe on a website redirect, on an ad, then typically what you want to do is you want to use the permanent link. So that's the difference between scheduling link and permanent link. Okay, so those are just different use cases. Again, just planting seeds if you ever need that use case. Okay, now one-time links, it says over here, one-time links are allowing you to share your availability with a unique link as a one-time thing, right? So you can click on generate new link and it'll generate a new link every single time. So this is going to be good for, let's say you don't want this person that you're about to send this link to be able to book a second appointment with you. You only want them to be able to book one appointment with you. You can actually go ahead and generate a one-time link there. And then there is an embed code. So if you wanted to go ahead and embed this into, let's say, for example, on a website or a funnel, if you were using a different platform, however, because this is an all-in-one platform, you don't actually need this embed code here. We're going to walk you through how to be able to go ahead and embed calendars easily within ClientKit. Okay, so for right now, I want to go ahead and walk you through, let's just say hypothetically, we go ahead and copy this permanent link, and then you can go ahead and open up a new tab, paste that permanent link in there and see what your actual calendar is going to look like. Now, sometimes if you don't want to open up in the exact same browser, what you can do is click on the three dots in Google Chrome, go over to a new incognito window. And an incognito window, if you don't know what that means, it basically means that it doesn't have you logged in. So that way it's kind of like a fresh new instance. And you can go ahead and paste it there if you wanted to see what that would look like really, really fresh. Like this is exactly how somebody who has never clicked on this link before would see it without any cached data or anything like that. Okay. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the first way that I wanted to go ahead and show you of how you can actually automatically book appointments is by sending a link to a calendar. And of course, if you had multiple calendars on here, you could go ahead and select all of the different links. You could go ahead and select, a different link on here and share it that way as well. The second method that I want to go ahead and show you on how you can get booked appointments automatically is going to be by embedding a calendar. Okay, so let me walk you through how this is going to work. If I go back and let's say, for example, I go over to sites and let's just say hypothetically I had, I'm just going to go ahead and make a new funnel here real quick. Okay, so you'll see how easy and quickly it is to make a funnel here. I'm just going to go over here. I don't know, just a random funnel. Let's just find wellness spa. I'm going to go ahead and select this one. I'm going to click on continue. Let this load up in here. And so I'm going to walk you through what this looks like on an example funnel here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and refresh real quick because sometimes when you load a funnel, it needs to refresh. And then let's just say hypothetically, I'm going to go ahead and go into this funnel here. And then let's just say, for example, I wanted to go ahead and embed that calendar that I have created right over here. So in this case, I don't want a survey. I'm going to actually go ahead and add an element. And then here we can actually go ahead and type in calendars, right? So calendars is an element type, calendar. And then it actually lets me, because remember, it's an all-in-one business platform. It's a system. It all works together, right? From here, you can actually then select the calendar that you have created in the calendar section. How cool is that, right? So you go ahead and click on that. And boom shakalaka, just like that, look how cool that is. It now has actually embedded the calendar into the actual page, right? And you can do this on websites, you can do this on funnels, you can do this on any page that is out there. And then you can go ahead and hit save. In this case, because this is just an example, I'm just going to go ahead and hit save again. And then I can go to preview, and you'll see right now it's going to go ahead and generate a preview. I haven't put this on a domain name or anything. This is kind of just a random preview on a random site. But you'll see just like that, we now actually have the calendar from our calendars embedded now on a site. And now, of course, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and actually put this on the domain name, and then I could very easily go ahead and create a custom page and send people to that custom page, and they could actually book appointments with me that way. Of course, this exact same thing also applies on the website side of things, right? So let's just say hypothetically, let me just go over to a random page here. I'm going to go over to our website. Again, this is just completely random. Do not do this. I'm just kind of randomly putting calendars all over the place just to show you how this would look. But let's say, for example, right in the smack dab at the very top, I'm like, you know what? I want to throw a calendar on here, right? For whatever reason, I go ahead and hit that plus button. I type in calendar over here, put a calendar there, select the calendar there, and then you'll see, boom, just like that, I have the calendar. I can go ahead and hit preview, and then you'll see it's going to save in just a second, and then it's going to go ahead and load the actual page, and the calendar is going to be embedded right over there, right? So it's very cool. You can literally go ahead and create embedded calendars wherever you would like. Of course, you want to be strategic about that. In this case, I am going to go ahead and delete and then hit save again because I don't want to have a calendar right at the top. But that's what I wanted to go ahead and show you, is that is another way that you can automatically get appointments booked on your calendar from clients, from prospects. And these are different ways. We're just exposing you to the different tools that are out there. Now, the answer is, hey, question is, what method should you actually use? Well, guess what? Each of the methods that we shared with you are going to have a different use case. So depending on what you're trying to do, you might use different ways, but it is very important for you to be well-versed and understand as many different ways as possible, because it's kind of like having a Swiss Army knife. The more you're exposed to how the business platform works, the more you know of the possibilities that the platform is capable of, the more that is going to allow you to go out there and actually build in ways that doesn't limit you, so you can go out there and really do what it is that you want with your business. Okay, so next step, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have followed along with us here, kind of explore inside of the business platform yourself. What you want to do is you want to test this with yourself. Okay, so what you're going to do, this is your action step for this training section, is you are going to go ahead and test both of the methods of booking an appointment. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through exactly what this looks like. You go over to calendars. You're going to go ahead and grab over either the scheduler link or the permanent link, okay? I'm going to go ahead and open this up in an incognito window, and I'm actually going to go ahead and book an appointment. So let's just say here on the 21st, which is the Wednesday, I'm going to go ahead and book an appointment. Let's just make this David John, I don't know, right here, okay? Phone number, we're going to go ahead and put a phone number on here. Okay, from there, we're going to go ahead and put David John at gmail.com. I don't know if there is a David John at gmail.com. We're going to find out. And then over here, schedule meeting. Okay, so it says invalid phone number because Client Kit is smart and actually knows that wasn't an actual phone number. So let's just see if I can put in a different random phone number, but a little bit more realistic. Boom, just like that. Okay, so it's going to schedule a meeting. You'll see this is what it actually looks like. Now over here, you'll see, thank you for your appointment request. We will contact you shortly to confirm your request. Please call our office. Now I'm like, you know what? I don't like this, right? So what I'm going to do, and this is exactly why you test, is I'm going to go ahead and edit that. So I'm going to go over here to edit. I'm then going to come over here to notifications and additional options. Wait, it's not notifications and additional options. It's going to be forms and payments. Here we go. And then right over here, it says confirmation page, right? And the confirmation page, thank you for your appointment request. We will contact you shortly. Contact method if you have any questions. I don't like that. Instead, what I'm going to do is thank you for your appointment. Your appointment has been confirmed, right? Appointment has been confirmed, right? Or something like that, right? You can go ahead and put a message there. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And then you're going to see if I go ahead and now go back, and if I go ahead and book another appointment, it is going to actually go ahead and change that. So I got to do David John. And then this was, I don't know the exact phone number I put. So we're going to find out. Okay, and then davidjohn at gmail.com right here, schedule meeting. You'll see that's going to give me a different message now because I've gone ahead and saved over there. You'll see it didn't actually give me a different message. I created like 3 appointments. Reason is because I believe we have to actually refresh. So let me refresh and try this one more time. Man, we're going to have David John is going to have so many different appointments. David John is in the system for days. He is going to be here. Oopsie daisies, I wasn't even typing. Here we go. Put it over here. There we go. And then David John at gmail.com, confirm, schedule meeting, and then hopefully this time around, fingers crossed, there we go. Thank you for your appointment. Your appointment has been confirmed. Okay, now we're going to do a couple things now that we've tested this method. First and foremost, I'm going to go back over here and go to the calendars tab, and I'm going to see, hey, guess what? David John's appointment is located there, and there's 3 David John appointments. Okay, so I checked over here. Awesome. And then of course you can go ahead and edit all appointments and that kind of stuff here. The other place I'm going to check this is I am going to go over into Google Calendar, and you'll see, boom shakalaka, David John's appointments have come over here into our Google Calendar as well. And this is cool because now it's with all of our other appointments, right? Let's say, for example, we had kids practice, we had, date night with the spouse, the partner, whatever it might be. And now it's all showing everywhere inside of your central calendar. The other place that I can go ahead and confirm this is I can go over to contacts. You'll see I probably have like a bunch of David Johns in the system, right? I got 2 David Johns here because apparently I must have gotten the phone numbers correct the same time. And then over here, if I go ahead and click into actually one of the contacts, obviously, this was just a test one. I can go over here to appointment and I can see that inside of the actual appointment, there is the appointment right there. Now, we're going to talk to you about how to cancel appointments, how to reschedule appointments, how to be able to go ahead and really do all of that in an upcoming training section. But I just wanted you to kind of get familiar around, hey, this is where all of the different places that I can find the appointment is. And it's really cool to see how the system actually comes together, right? So that's going to be one way that you can test it. Make sure, please, you do not want to be one of those students who is a failure uniform business owner, who's a entrepreneur, who just watches and educates himself, but then they don't actually do any of the reps, okay? So you want to make sure you go through and test all of that, very importantly. The other method that you can also go ahead and test is you can go in and test putting a calendar somewhere, right? So you want to go out there for an action step, maybe go over to the website if you really want to, right? You can go over to your website, you can go and edit the website there. And then what you can do, since your website is probably going to be on your domain name, it's going to be pretty cool for you to test this out. You could go and add a calendar on your homepage, but if you don't want to mess with that, you're like, I don't want to mess with that too much. What you could do is you could also go ahead and add a new page and you could just go, hey, you know what, calendar test right here. And then you could make this on calendar test on your domain. You could create a new page here. And then because this is going to be on your domain name, you could actually go ahead and right here, edit in a new tab. It's going to be a completely blank page. And then you can come over here and you can just go ahead and make this full width. You can add a row, you can add an element, come over here and add a calendar, just like that. Add the calendar there, save, beautiful, awesome. And then I'm going to go ahead and check settings. This is on my domain. And then I can come over here to settings over here. It's on calendar test. Beautiful. And then from here, I can go ahead and click on preview link and you'll see just like that, it does actually show up on our domain because this is the actual page with the calendar that is embedded on it, right? So we got nutrifitwellness.com/calendar test. And then right over here, I can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? If I want to go ahead and book an appointment from here, that is how I can do it from there. And so it's very important that this is a skill that you learn, that you actually go out, pause this training video and actually go out and do this. Like, hey, send a link to yourself, book an appointment, see how it shows up in the calendar tab inside of ClientKit, book an appointment, see how it shows up inside of Google Calendar on your central calendar, right? That's the reason why we walked you through this step by step for this entire setup. So that way, as the system is coming together, you're understanding the overarching strategy and you're unlocking in your mind the ability to use these tools in ways that are going to allow you to go ahead and customize and really allow you to do whatever you want with your business, as long as you're developing these skills of like, hey, you know what? I want to go ahead and have a calendar on a web page. How does that work? This is how it works. And so in the same way that if somebody was trying to learn how to bench press or deadlift and they just watched a bunch of YouTube videos about it for hours and hours and hours, and they had the knowledge on it, but they never actually did any reps, then at that point, they wouldn't have the skill, right? And so in the same way, if you want to be able to go ahead and unlock the skill of how to be able to do this, it's not going to happen by you sitting around and just listening to me and walking us through this, right? You have to go out there and get the knowledge, yes, but then you got to do the reps. Only then are you going to be able to master this. Now, a couple quick points around this as well, okay? So if you do notice that your availability on this is not 100%, it's probably going to be like 60 to 70 to 80%, but you're like, you know what? I want to go ahead and really fine tune this availability. What is the best system, the best approach, the best strategy to fine tune this availability? Yes, it's connected to your Google Calendar, so that way all of this is going to be synced there, but we're going to be walking you through in an upcoming training section on how to further fine tune your availability on your booking calendar. The other thing that I want to go ahead and say here is that if ClientKit tries to send out SMS text messages or email reminders for these test appointments, do not worry about that right now. It may or may not work for you right now, because what we're going to do in an upcoming training section is walk you through how to set up the automated workflows and the automated text messages and the automated emails. That is going to be a whole separate training. For right now and for the purposes of this test that you're going to be doing, all you need to focus on is, hey, does the actual calendar system work, right? The actual calendar events. You want to make sure that you go in and do the share link, the permanent link. You want to go ahead and check the embed. You want to go ahead and check all of that first. And then all the other systems, we're going to go ahead and walk you through how to set that up in later trainings. I hope that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. This has been this specific training section on the 2 methods of how to actually go ahead and book automatic appointments. Now, is this the end all be all, or is this all of the automatic book appointment methods? Of course not. This is just what we have thus far, but that's where most of the learning, the most up-to-date learning is going to be happening inside of the community as more and more community members find different ways to be able to do these things. As we find different ways to be able to do these things, we're going to be sharing that inside of the community. And then if you find different things, make sure you're sharing that in the community as well. But for right now, this is a very good primer. This is a very good foundation for you to get started on how to book automatic appointments. And the next up, we're also going to talk about how to book appointments manually from inside of the CRM system. We're not done yet. We will catch you on the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section that's going to be talking about how to book appointments manually. Okay, so in a previous training section or in a different training section, we did talk about, or we are going to talk about, booking appointments automatically, right? How to go ahead and send a link or embed the calendar onto a page so that way the client on their side or the prospect or the lead can on their side book an appointment. Now, inside of this training section, we're going to be talking about how you can book appointments with contacts on your side. Okay, so there are multiple ways to do this. We're going to walk you through some of those ways. So a couple of those ways: method number 1 by contact page, method number 2 by calendar tab, method number 3 by conversation tab. These are going to be 3 of the most common ways to manually book appointments from inside of your business platform. So let's go ahead and talk about method number 1, which is going to be the contact page. So let me show you how this is going to work. What you're going to do is you're going to go over to the left side where it says contacts, and then this is going to take you into your actual CRM with all of your different contacts. And let's just say, for example, we pick on Elon Musk a lot. So let's go ahead and pick on Elon Musk here as well. And what we're going to do is you're going to see here on the right-hand side, there's like activity, there's different tasks. You see on here, there's notes, appointments, documents, as well as payments. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on appointments, which is that calendar icon right over there, because right now what we are in is this is what is known as the contact page. Okay, so the contact page means, hey, this is all of the information related to this contact, in this case, Elon Musk, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on appointments. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and click on add. And then right here, it's going to go ahead and the book appointment box is going to show up, in which we are going to go ahead and be able to book an appointment. Now, once that page actually loads, I'm going to walk you through each of the different kind of prompts here so that way you're very, very clear on how to manually book an appointment. Okay, so the very first part up here, let me see if I can zoom in for you a little bit more. There we go. So what it's going to do is the very first part is going to be whatever calendar you want to select. Okay, so in this case, we only have one calendar right now, so that way that's what's going to show up there. Now, I also want to go ahead and be clear here. We would highly recommend that you go ahead and pause and follow along in this video. So go ahead and add yourself as a contact inside of your CRM and go through this so you can see, hey, does it look different on my end? Is it going to look exactly the same way? Otherwise, you're just saying, yeah. And then when it comes time to actually use the tool with an actual contact, you're going to be like, oh no, it looks different. I didn't figure that out. And then you're going to be freaking out, right? So it's very important for you to go ahead and make sure that you follow along. Now, appointment title. Here's the thing. If you leave the appointment title blank, then it's automatically going to create the appointment title that is normally inside of the calendar. And so normally we would recommend that you leave this blank because automatically it is going to go ahead and create the default kind of template that is from the calendar. And so that's usually what we want to go ahead and do. The same is also going to apply for the team member. We want to go ahead and leave that as the calendar default, so that way we don't have to mess with it. So that way the calendar and the settings that we set on the calendar level are going to go ahead and work with that. Okay, so really the only thing that we have to really kind of mess with is going to be specifically the slot where Elon Musk is going to be booking this appointment, right? So we're going to go and say, okay, you know what? Inside of this calendar, I'm going to book his appointment for 3 p.m. on, let's say, the 23rd. And it's going to show up all the slots here. And then we got to go 3 p.m. Now, here's something that's very, very important that sometimes people don't understand, is that time zones matter. Now, ClientKit does an amazing job of actually making this easy. So let's say, for example, you are in communication with Elon, and Elon says, hey, I want to book the appointment at, let's just say hypothetically at 4 p.m. my time. And so Elon, let's say for example, Elon is located in a different time zone. Well, guess what? How are you actually going to know that? So that way, just so you don't have to do any mathematical kind of calculations in your head, it's going to allow you to say, hey, you know what? We're going to show you all of these times right here in the user's time zone. So that way, this is user means your time zone, right? But in this case, let's say, for example, I'm going to go ahead and change this for Elon, because Elon, I want to go ahead and show you what it looks like if we went ahead and changed his time zone. So I'm going to go over here. I believe it's going to be under additional information. No, it's not under additional information, maybe general information. So if you go over to general information, yep, right here. So I'm going to change Elon's time zone, and let's just say hypothetically that he's going to be in New York, okay? And then I come over here, make sure that that actually has saved. I believe it has. Yep, auto save is on there. Okay, so now if I go over to appointments, add an appointment. So what it's doing is it's showing me my user, right? So user means you, and it's showing me the appointments that are located in my time. So let's just say we go over here into the 24th, and then right over here, let's say I book it on, right now I'm in Texas. So that means I'm in Central Time. So if I book this at 11 a.m. Central Time, what you're going to see is that here on the right side, this is the cool part about ClientKit, how it makes it easy for you. You can actually see what time that is going to be for Elon. And so that way you can actually say, hey, if Elon wanted to book the appointment at 12, well, guess what? It says, hey, contacts local time, American New York is going to be this. And so automatically ClientKit is going to know based off of the settings, where they opted in from, how they got their information, all that. It's going to see their time zone and be able to adjust it accordingly. And if it ever messes up, you can go in and manually change the time zone the way that I just went ahead and showed you. Okay, so that's going to be that. And then meeting location, again, we can go ahead and leave that as calendar default, right? So most of the time, all you really got to do in this entire kind of box, I know that looks like there's a lot of options, but all you do is you select the calendar, right? So which calendar do you want to book him on? Is this going to be a consultation? Is it going to be an onboarding call? Whatever that might be. Appointment title, we leave that blank. Team member name, we leave that calendar default, okay? And then the only thing we really have to decide is going to be, hey, what is going to be the time that that's going to happen, as well as does this line up with the time that is Elon's time zone? And then, of course, if we actually wanted to update his time zone to US Central Texas time, we could do that here. But normally we do not do that because the system's already going to know what time zone he is in. And then also the meeting location over here, we go ahead and leave that calendar default as well. So really, it's only this box that we need to actually go ahead and make a change to. And then from there, all we go ahead and do is we just go ahead and click book appointment. Boom shakalaka. And then right there, you'll see Elon's appointment is booked, and it's also going to show up here on the left side. So let me zoom out so you can see. It's going to also show here on the right side, on the actual appointment. Now, here's a cool part. Now that I've manually booked his appointment here, if I go into my Google Calendar, what's going to happen here is that you'll see that this appointment is set for February 24th at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. is set there, right there. And over here, you'll see it doesn't show up just yet, okay? So what it does is sometimes the integration does take a couple minutes, but what I can do is I can actually confirm this. If I go here, I'm going to duplicate this because I don't want to lose Elon Musk's page over here. I'm going to duplicate this tab. I'm going to go over to calendars. And then I'm going to go over here and you'll see, boom, just right there, I have the calendars. Elon Musk's appointment is showing up on the 24th, Saturday at 11 a.m. And sometimes it really just needs a couple minutes in order for the integration to make its way into Google Calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple minutes here. I'm going to go ahead and then cut back as soon as that actually shows up on the Google Calendar. All right, we're back. So if I go ahead and refresh over here on Google Calendar, you'll see that that meeting with Elon Musk is showing up on Saturday. It's not something I created. That's something that was from the integration. And now here's the cool part. You're going to see that in the description, there is that, hey, right there, Elon can see this reschedule link, cancellation link, all those settings that we had set up from the actual settings in the calendar are showing up over here on that appointment. How cool is that, right? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is method number 1 on how you can actually go in and book an appointment with a contact manually. Next up, I want to go and talk to you about how you can do this via the calendar tab. It's going to be a little bit faster now because you already understand how this works. So if we go back, we're going to go over here to the calendar section, and then we have our calendars tab right over here. What we can do right over here is we can click on new. And then right over here, we can also do the exact same thing, except this time we have to actually select the contact, right? So in this case, let's say we're going to go ahead and book with, who we're going to book with. Let's go ahead and book with LeBron James, okay? So LeBron James, same exact situation here like we talked about earlier. You're going to go ahead and leave the appointment title blank, the description blank, the team member is going to be default, the calendar is what you're going to select. You're going to go and select the time slot, and the meeting location is going to be the default as well. So in this case, let's just say hypothetically, we're going to book with LeBron James at 1 p.m. on the 20th. If I go ahead and book appointment, that is going to now show up here on the 20th, LeBron James there. And then if I give it a second, boom, right there, it shows up LeBron James directly inside of Google Calendar as well with all the information, right? So see how cool that is? Very, very, very easy to do. The other thing I can also do is I can also go ahead and click on the actual calendar. So let's say, for example, I just click somewhere. I can go ahead and actually set it that way as well. So it allows me to create a new appointment that way. And then I can also go into appointments here and then it's going to show me all of the appointments that I have. You'll see right over here, LeBron James, Elon Musk, David John, all of these right here. I can go ahead and, decide if I want to cancel them, no show them, all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about this in a little bit more in an upcoming training section, but I can go ahead and also click on new appointment over here as well. So you see, it's a lot faster once you kind of get an idea of how this works, because this book appointment module is pretty much the same wherever you're going to go. So you just got to learn it once, you got to learn the skill once, and then you're good to go after that. Next up, where else can you actually manually go in and book appointments from? You can actually do it from the conversation tab as well. So if you go over here on the left side, you click on conversations, you'll see over here that you have all of these different conversations, right? So Elon Musk conversation, LeBron James conversation, Dwayne Johnson conversation, right? So if I come over here, what I can do is I can actually come over here and I can see, hey, show me the appointments for Dwayne Johnson, right? And right now I don't have any appointments with Dwayne Johnson. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on book appointment. And then you'll see it's automatically going to know, hey, we're doing this for Dwayne Johnson. Same exact module that we had on here. All we got to do is we just got to go ahead and select what time that is going to be. So let's say, for example, we're going to meet with The Rock, and we're going to meet with him on, let's say hypothetically, we're going to meet with him on the 22nd, and it's going to go ahead and load up the slots on here, and then we're going to go ahead and meet with him at 1 p.m., and then I can go ahead and book appointment that way. See, all I had to do was select the calendar, which by default, I only have one calendar right now, so I left everything else blank. Boom, that shows me my calendars right there. If I wanted to see, hey, show me the contact information of Dwayne Johnson here in the conversations tab, all I got to do is click on that. That'll show me that there. And then it also shows me the confirmation for that appointment right here. I can click on view appointment, and it'll show me that view appointment module right here. So show me the exact appointment. This is all the information with it. And then I click on edit if I need to make any changes to the appointment. Furthermore, if I wanted to filter out and I say, hey, you know what? Show me all of the appointments in the feed that are related to Dwayne Johnson. Boom, I can go ahead and do that. And then guess what? If I go over to Google Calendar, who's on our calendar right over here? We got our Dwayne Johnson calendar right over here with the integration. Boom, the appointment is showing up inside of Google Calendar. So this is the reason why you're seeing now the fruits of the labor as we went ahead and walked you through the central calendar, the booking calendar setup. So that way everything is showing up nice and tidy in the entire system, and the strategy is working very nicely together. I really hope you're getting a lot out of this training, because this really is the pro tips, right? We're really walking you through how to be able to do this, because the more repetition you get through this, the more habits you have to this, you're going to be flying through effortlessly throughout the business platform and running your business, because you understand exactly, hey, I can do this here, I can do this here, I can do this here. And then another thing I didn't mention, and this is something that I'm going to do our best to mention more and more often, is like, hey, you got that search over here. And so what you can do all the time is you're like, you know what? I can go Command K, and then I can just jump to people's different contact records on here, right? So let's say, for example, I searched up, I believe we have Jennifer Lopez in the system as well right over here. So I can go to Jennifer Lopez, click on that, boom, it'll take me over to Jennifer Lopez's contact page. From there, I can go ahead and click on appointments, book an appointment there. I can also go ahead and use the hotkey. In this case, I'm on a Mac, so it's Command K or Control K on Windows. Boom. I can jump over to LeBron James just like that. And so this, ladies and gentlemen, is the speed of which you can move through the business platform as you're understanding it more and more. These are the three methods, or the three more popular methods of how to actually go ahead and book appointments manually. Of course, which method should you use? Each method has a different use case depending on the situation. It's just very good to be well versed and understand as many of these different methods as possible. And so we would recommend that you go ahead and test this with yourself, right? Actually do the action step. Please don't be one of those students. I know you are not like that, but unfortunately I have to say this because there are new business owners who go through these trainings and they don't actually take action, which is very unfortunate. So make sure you take action, test this with yourself, test it via the contact page for yourself, test it via the calendar tab, test it via the conversation tab, see how it looks, actually get in there, play around with it, because I promise you, without the reps, you are not going to acquire the skill that you are looking for, because these are the foundational ABCs, right? So when you want to go out and let's say, for example, you want to read a book or you want to write a book, if you never went to grade school, you never learned your ABCs, you never learned how ABCs create words, those words create sentences, that creates paragraphs, creates chapters, creates books. If you never learn the foundations, then you're not going to be able to actually do some of the more advanced stuff. So these are the ABC foundations. So that way, when we actually get into, hey, marketing, hey, sales, this is where a lot of people struggle because of the fact that they never learned their ABCs properly. So please make sure that you do the action, learn your ABCs properly, so that way you are rocking and rolling. And just a reminder, I know we mentioned this previously, but if your availability on these booking calendars as you're doing this testing looks a little bit off, it might only be about 80% there. We're going to walk you through in a different training section on how to make sure that is 100% the availability that you're looking for. And then if ClientKit tries to send out any SMS or email reminders for the appointment, don't worry about those right now. We'll walk you through how to fine tune and adjust those in an upcoming training section as well. Right now, all we are doing is just learning the skill of how to to actually go ahead and say, hey, how do I book appointments manually for the sake of this training? Make sure you go out there and take action. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the more popular ways of how to actually go ahead and book appointments manually. Of course, the most up-to-date versions of this are going to be located in the community. As we learn more, we're going to share in the community. As other new business owners and other new students going through this program learn more, they're going to share it in the community. If you learn something new, make sure you share it in the community as well. Help others in the community, because this is a community-driven program. We're not done yet with all of the steps related to the scheduler. However, we will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section where we are going to be talking about managing availability. Okay, so this is going to be a very important training, because what ends up happening is that if you don't have a good system or a good strategy to manage availability, then it can sometimes get overwhelming. And the reason why it can get overwhelming is because there are 3 places where you can actually manage your booking calendar, your scheduler's availability. Okay, so you can manage it on the global availability client kit side. You can manage it on the calendar specific availability on the client kit side. And then you can also manage it on the central calendar availability, Google Calendar side. Man, okay, my brain is blowing up. This is too much. Okay, yes, that's exactly why we're making this training section, because here's the thing, right? So you can actually go over here to settings, and then you can go over to calendars, and then you can go over to availability, and you can change the availability on the entire account over here, right? Or you could also then change the availability. If I went over here to edit, and then I go to availability here, I can change the availability on the actual calendar level, right? The booking calendar scheduler level. And then I can also go into actual Google Calendar. I can say, you know what? I want to go ahead and manage availability by blocking off here. And then I could manage it over here. And so this is a diagram that shows you that 2 of those methods are on the client kit side. So there is a global availability that I showed you, and then there is the actual calendar specific availability. And then there is a central calendar, the Google Calendar side, that it can also happen over there. And so this is exactly why I am saying pay attention here, because it can be confusing. This is where a lot of new business owners kind of get tripped up, because they can't figure out a system or a strategy on how to actually manage their availability and all of kind of the moving pieces here. And so that's the reason why what we're going to do here is we're actually going to teach you how to think about this. We're going to give you the foundational principles that are a part of the strategy, because here's the thing, right? The tool is Google Calendar. Hey, here's Google Calendar. It's free. Go use it. Here's Client Kit, right? This is an amazing software that we were able to go ahead and partner up with, so that way you can have access to it. Hey, cool, go use it. But where's the strategy behind it? Where's the actual method of using it, right? It's not just about the tool. It's about the system and the strategy that that tool is put into. So let's actually go ahead and talk about what our recommended strategy for managing availability is going to be. So typically what we like to do is that we like to leave global availability wide open. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you what I mean by this. We go back over here to calendars. We go over to availability. This is going to be global availability. This is a separate training section that we helped you set up previously. What we would recommend is that you leave this as wide open as possible. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and leave it open from, let's say, 4 a.m. to even like 9 p.m., you can go ahead and do that, copy to all, not an issue. The reason why is because in just a second, what we're going to say is that, hey, we would recommend that you control your availability from Google Calendar. And so as long as you have an event that is blocking off 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., right? That's the reason why we made that morning event. And as long as, right, 9 p.m. is over here, as long as you have an event inside of Google Calendar that is blocking off, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., it doesn't matter if you leave this wide open, because this event, because of the integration, because of checking with the conflicts, this event is going to go ahead and actually stop anyone from being able to go ahead and book over this slot. And so that way, when you leave this wide open, you don't have to worry about this at all, right? And so that's the reason why global availability, we would recommend that you leave that wide open. And then the calendar specific availability, okay, so we go over here to calendars, we go over to the actual calendar that we might have set up. Now, right now, we only have one calendar set up, right? But let's say hypothetically, I had another calendar. I'm just going to make one very, very quickly to show you how easy it is, as well as just show you what it could look like. So we have the one-on-one consult calendar, but let's say, for example, I was going to make a welcome call calendar, right? So welcome call is going to be for new clients. I'm just going to make this really quickly. This is going to be NFW welcome. This is going to be for NutriFit Wellness welcome, 30 minutes, no problem. Cool. This is going to be that availability. I'm going to go ahead and confirm. Close. Okay, cool. Now I got 2 calendars, right? Welcome call calendar. So what you can do is that you can actually set the availability on the calendar specific level, okay? So what we would recommend is that typically, even on the calendar specific level, we would recommend leaving it wide open, because what that's gonna do is gonna allow you to be able to book welcome calls and one-on-one consults anytime that there is a free slot open, okay? Now, that is typically in general what the recommendation is gonna be, unless you have an exception. Let's say hypothetically, you only wanna take welcome calls in the morning. Well, in that case, you can't leave it wide open, because according to the settings that we have right now, if I go over to edit, I go over to availability, you'll see that the current settings on the welcome call calendar allow it to be booked all the way until 5 p.m. Now, normally you don't want to restrict this, because you want to be able to be so you can maximize your work hours, right? So let's say, for example, a client can't make it in the morning, you want to be able to have a welcome call with them in the evening or the afternoon, you can go ahead and do that, right? So what you would normally do is that you would leave this wide open, but let's say in some extreme exception situation where when we get into the actual specific calendar setups, we'll walk you through this, but this is just kind of general principles that you can walk through, right? It's like, okay, let's say welcome calls, I only want to do in the morning. Well, what I can do is I can do it and say, you know what, I'm going to set this to only be up until 12 p.m. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit copy to all, apply, okay? And then I don't want to take them on Sundays, but I will take them on Saturdays. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, what you're going to see is, check this out, okay? I'm going to go ahead and hit close. I'm going to go over to the welcome call share. I'm going to go ahead and grab the permanent link. I'm going to go ahead and open this up in an incognito window. If you want to know what the hotkey, the shortcut, the keyboard shortcut for opening an incognito window is on Google Chrome, it's actually Command Shift and then the N, the letter N. So if you hit that, it'll actually open up. You'll see it opens up multiple incognito windows. Command Shift N is the way that you can actually go ahead and do that as a hotkey. Or if you don't want to do that as a hotkey keyboard shortcut, you can always go ahead and click there, and then you'll see new incognito window, and then it gives you the hotkey right there, right? So you see the hotkey, gives you right there. Okay, cool. So anyways, right here we can go ahead and paste Command Shift, Command V to paste the actual link on here, and you'll see what it does is it actually goes ahead. Welcome call calendar only allows me to book up until 11:30, because remember, this is in 30-minute increments. That's the settings that we have on there. So it only blocks that off there. Now, the other thing that you'll notice, if I go ahead and look at this and compare this with my calendar, you'll see that on the 21st, I have an appointment with David John at 9 and at 10 a.m., right? So therefore, on the 21st, you'll see that it does not show 9 and 10 a.m. in here, because it knows, based off of the central calendar integration, that I already have appointments booked there. So it's not going to allow anybody else new to book on there, okay? So typically, what we are going to recommend is that you do leave that availability even on the calendar specific wide open, unless you have a specific case scenario where you're not going to do that, right? So availability, you can even come over here and put this at like super wide open. You can go 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the reason, again, that it's not going to matter if you do this is because it's always going to look at your Google Calendar. And as long as you have this morning and this night event, then it is going to go ahead and restrict the hours that somebody can actually book. And so again, there is a method to the madness. This is the reason why we're walking you through the system and the strategy, and the reason why we had you create those events in a previous training section. So that way you could actually later on, you see, we've done this a while. This is not our first rodeo. We've actually done this a couple times before, like a couple hundred times. And so we know what to expect. And that's exactly what we're teaching you with that system. So that way we know, hey, this system works because later on, this is what we're going to be able to use as a part of the system. And so that is going to be the calendar specific. You can go ahead and repeat that again for, let's say, the one-on-one consult. You can go ahead and hit edit and then change the availability wide open there. And then this is going to be where most of the time what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and control your availability from Google Calendar, okay? So that way, if you do have, let's say, for example, like, gym, lunch, you got your kids appointments, whatever, it's so easy to go ahead and just move appointments just like this. Look at this. I'm just moving appointments left and right? And then over here, let's say, for example, at 12, I want to do lunch, okay? If at 12, I'm going to do lunch, well, guess what? All I got to do, check this out. All right, I'm going to show it to you right here. 12, I moved the lunch over here with Google Calendar, right? 12 p.m. on the 21st is going to be lunch. What I do is I open an incognito window, I go over here, and then I go over the 21st, and guess what? It's not going to show me 12 p.m. And the reason it's not going to show me 12 p.m. is because it read the Google Calendar. And so see how easy it was for me to go ahead and literally change the availability on this calendar just by changing on the Google Calendar side. So that way it's so much easier rather than you having to go into each calendar, go to availability, go over here, go to the 21st, and then decide, hey, am I available this time? It's too complex. And that's the reason why our recommendation, even though the tool allows you to be able to do a lot of stuff, right? But you don't want to get overwhelmed. You want to be running your business. You don't want to be messing around with the small stuff here and there. And so that's the reason why this is the recommended strategy of managing your availability on the Google Calendar side. Now, the other important piece of this, pay attention because it's very, very, very important, okay, is that whenever you want to actually go ahead and change a client's appointment, we would recommend that you actually do that inside of ClientKit. Whenever you need to change a Google Calendar appointment, you do that in Google Calendar. Let me show you what I mean by this, okay? So let's say, for example, I need to reschedule Dwayne Johnson's appointment, right? So let me zoom in so you can see a little bit more. So let's say, for example, I need to reschedule Dwayne Johnson's appointment. Yes, Google Calendar allows me to move it. However, this is not the right approach. Let me go ahead and put a massive X over here, okay? This is not the way that you want to do it when it comes to client appointments that have been booked through ClientKit. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and follow the training section, because there's a whole separate training section. We walk you through how to reschedule appointments, how to cancel appointments. But real quick, kind of a spoiler alert here, right? All you do is you go over to Calendar tab, find that Dwayne Johnson appointment, and then you go ahead and reschedule it from the system here inside of ClientKit. That you do not do that via Google Calendar. Very important, okay? And then when it comes to Google Calendar appointments, let's say, for example, lunch, that is not going to be something that I can actually move here, right? So right here, here's the lunch, right? You'll see I can't move this. It doesn't allow me to edit it. And the reason it doesn't allow me to edit it is because this is actually a Google Calendar appointment that cannot be edited from ClientKit. And so what you want to do in your head is you want to go ahead and create a separation. Whenever anything is for business purposes, whenever anything is for client purposes, all of that is going to happen inside of ClientKit. And whenever there is a Google Calendar type of event, that is going to happen inside of Google Calendar. You want to create that separation in your head. You want to make that into a habit, so that way you don't mess around and say, okay, I'm just going to move this appointment. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. No. You want to understand when and where you actually have to be able to move appointments and manage your availability that way. And so that's exactly the reminder that we have inside of the guide here as well, is like, hey, this is the recommendation. Otherwise it can get very messy very quickly. In Google Calendar, this is just going to be very fast because I already said this to you, but I want to go ahead and emphasize it one more time. In Google Calendar, only move your personal appointments around or any appointments that you have around Google Calendar. In ClientKit, move your booking calendar appointments only. So if you have a doctor's appointment that you have put on your Google Calendar, you cannot move that in ClientKit. You have to move that in Google Calendar, okay? But if you have a client appointment that was created from your booking calendar, aka all of these, right? Dwayne Johnson, David John, LeBron James, all these, what you're going to do is you're going to move that inside of ClientKit. So having this separation in your mind is going to allow you to make sure that you're keeping things nice and organized and that your system is not getting messed up, because sometimes the software, if you go into here and you actually try to move the appointment here, right? What it's going to do is sometimes it's going to mess up how it actually ends up being inside of ClientKit. And you don't want to do that, because then it could mess up your notifications and the reminders that we're going to help you get set up later on. And so again, the tool allows you to, but just because the tool allows you to, you got to follow the system and the strategy so that way you are rocking and rolling here, okay? Next up, let's talk about availability troubleshooting. This is very important. Whatever availability that you want to have shown up on your calendar here, right? Your availability here. This availability is going to ultimately be based off of what is located here inside of this calendar here, okay? And so if you are ever wondering like, hey, how come, 4 p.m. on the 23rd is showing up? Or how come, 10:30 a.m. on the 22nd is showing up? What you can do is you go, cool, 22nd, 10:30 a.m. Well, guess what? I don't have any appointment at 10:30 a.m. on the 22nd. That's why it's showing up on the calendar. And so if you're ever wondering like, hey, why is it showing up the way that it is? Always make sure to reference the calendars tab here in ClientKit, because this is ultimately what the booking calendar is going to pull from. And then also there is additional settings there as well. So if you go over to settings and then I go over to calendars and then I go over to edit, and then I go over to availability. Right here at the bottom where you have meeting interval, meeting duration, minimum scheduling notice, date range, all of this has a big impact on what shows up on the actual booking calendar as well, right? So minimum scheduling notice, if I put this at, let's say 12 hours, and then let's say the date range, which is going to be the maximum date range that they can book. Let's just say I put this at 3 days, okay? And then buffer time, that's it. I hit save. That is going to have a big impact. You'll see right now, it's going to allow me, it's going to say, cool, no slots available, because if I refresh those settings that I just saved right now, you'll see, boom, it doesn't allow me to book more than a couple days out. And right now, it's probably because I have this entire Friday that's blocked off. I have to go ahead and take that out. And then you'll see this 23rd is not available right now. But if I go ahead and refresh, and then if the Google Calendar integration comes in time, because sometimes it does take a minute. So right now it looks like it did not show up just yet. So the reason is because watch this. If I go back, go to calendars, right now, Friday looks like it is open up for me here, right? So now I should be able to go ahead and refresh and see if it shows up. Okay, so it's still not showing up, and that probably means, and this is where you're going to learn this skill, right? This is a skill that you kind of just have to know where all these different settings are, and then that's going to allow you to mess around with it a little bit more. I'm thinking that the reason why the 23rd is not opening up right now is because right now it's the 20th, and it's set to only open up 3 days in advance. So let's do 4 days in advance, hit save, and then let's see if that makes a change. So I hit save, let that load. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And 23rd, there we go. 23rd shows up. So that's exactly what you got to look at, right? So was it the actual calendar event? It was probably the calendar event that I had on here that I had to delete, and then I had to wait for it to integrate, and then I had to go in and check the availability and check the settings here as well. And so this is where you're kind of understanding, you're unlocking the doors in your mind where all these settings are in the business platform, so that way you're not overwhelmed when it comes time to actually be running your business, because you understand, hey, how do I actually troubleshoot the availability? Well, guess what? This is what you're basically unlocking right now. And so our recommendation is that really go out there and take the time to play around with the business platform exactly the way that you saw me do right now. Take the time to make sure that it is super fine-tuned in, right? So you want to go in and actually test out based off the different calendars, check your, calendar specific availability, check your global availability, make sure you're checking, hey, how does it look like on Google Calendar? Just run through a couple different tests, kind of imagine you are an example situation, right? Put a situation there and say, okay, cool. If a client was going to try to do this, if a client was going to try to do that, try and run through it as many times as possible, because remember, the more repetition that you get from this, right? Skill equals knowledge times reps. Yes, this training video gave you the knowledge, but until you actually go out there, pause this training, go in there, do the dang work, you're not going to have any repetition to be able to unlock the skill, to be able to have higher levels of learning. So that way you can get to the point where you are competent, you are a professional, you're reaching those levels of mastery that are going to be critical for this. Now, the last thing I want to go ahead and mention before we close out this training here is that whatever we just said, is this gospel? Is this Quran? Does this mean like, hey, has to be exactly what it is? No, the system and strategy that we just shared with you is the recommendation that we have used ourselves in most of the situations, okay? However, depending on your situation, depending on use case, the system and the strategy may be different, right? So it may be depending on different situations, if you're going on vacation, the different types of appointments, if you're booking a coaching call versus an onboarding call versus a consultation call versus an in-person session. Maybe you only do your in-person sessions in the morning. Maybe you only do your in-person sessions in the afternoon, right? All of that is going to have an impact. But the point of this was to open your mind up and teach you the basic principles of where all these settings are, so that way you can be empowered and you can know how to be able to make these changes yourself. And you are not stuck to the hip. You are not a slave to any single person because of the fact that you understand, hey, I now understand the tools and the principles. I can do this myself. And at the end of the day, guess what? We're not going to be able to predict every single new business owner and every single new student situation. This is the reason why this is a community. We are all learning from each other and helping each other on the mountain. There is no guru on the mountain that has all the answers. And so if you learn something, if you learn, hey, this specific use case it was helpful for me, it might be helpful for somebody else. If you're struggling with like, hey, you know what? I have this specific use case. I'm not sure how I would best actually do this. Well, guess what? Ask in the community, because all of the most up-to-date learning happens in the community. These courses and these trainings are just stuff that we actually go ahead and create way after all the learning has happened in the community, right? So all of the best practices only get documented, but the courses and these trainings take a long time for us to make. And so the most up-to-date learnings are always going to be inside of the community. So you want to make sure that you are sharing, you're up to date with that, because unless you share, other people are not going to share. So it is a give and ask cycle that you need to make sure that you are contributing to if you want to actually get value from all of this. And so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been this training on how to actually manage and troubleshoot availability. You are becoming an absolute pro at this as long as you go out there and actually do the repetition to play around with what it is that we talked about inside of this training section. And so we're not done yet. We got to walk through a couple extra steps in order to really make you an absolute professional, an absolute master when it comes to the calendar and scheduling. We're spending a lot of time on this because scheduler and calendar is something that you're going to be using quite a lot. And so that's the reason why it's so important to make sure that you are very well versed in all of the different aspects of it and what it can do and what the best strategy and system for it is going to be. So with that being said, we will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section that's gonna be walking you through how to actually cancel appointments. So now that you've learned how to be able to book appointments, how to manage availability, learning how to cancel appointments is also going to be very important. There's quite a few ways that you can do it inside of the platform. So we're gonna go and walk you through that right now. The first method is gonna be canceling using the contact page. So let me go and walk you through this, right? So what you do is you go over to the contacts, you select which contact that you're actually gonna go ahead and manage. So let's just say in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and manage Elon Musk's contact, and then we're gonna go over to appointments here on the right side, right? So we go appointments right there. It's going to show me all of the appointments that I have booked with Elon Musk. Now, what I can do is I can just go ahead and click on delete, and you'll see that it's going to say, hey, are you sure that you want to cancel this appointment? I can go ahead and click on OK. Or I could also go ahead and hit this pencil icon. And then from there, I could also go ahead and go to status. And wherever status is right here, I could go ahead and change the status to cancel it as well. And then I could hit save appointment, right? So if I do that, you'll see in just a second what it is going to do. It is going to go ahead and actually cancel this appointment that was located on February 24th. And then what you're going to notice is that that also deletes it on the Google Calendar side as well. Let's go ahead and do one more so I can show you this. So you'll see on here right now, I'm supposed to be in a meeting with LeBron James. Okay. So if I go over here to LeBron James, I then go over here to appointments inside of his actual contact page. Right over here, instead of doing the pencil icon way, I'm actually going to do the delete way. So if I go ahead and click on that, are you sure you want to cancel this appointment? I go ahead and click OK. It's going to go ahead and cancel that appointment. And you'll see, boom, just like that, it disappeared over from Google Calendar as well. Okay. Now, typically if you delete it, that's one way you can do it. But if you delete it, it literally just like deletes it from the entire system. So sometimes you can decide, hey, you know what? The best practice might be to actually go in and change the status. But again, it doesn't make that big of a difference. If there's ever any changes to that, we're going to go ahead and update that inside of the community, and other community members will be able to go ahead and, vouch for, what the difference between these two is. But for us, we've never really seen the difference. But again, in the community will be the best way to look at that. Okay. So method number one, canceling using the contact page. We've gone ahead and finished that. Next up, we're going to talk about canceling using conversations. So let's go over here into conversations tab. Let's see, we have an appointment with Dwayne Johnson. So let me go ahead and find Dwayne Johnson right over here. Now here, what we can do is we can actually cancel appointments by using the calendar button here under the conversations tab. So all we can do is we go over here to appointments. And then right over here, you'll see that we have the appointment. If I click on the actual appointment, it'll allow me to go ahead and change the status. And I can go ahead and change that status to canceled. And then I can go ahead and hit save appointment. And you'll see right over here, if you give it a second, let me make sure, boom, just like that, you'll see it disappeared because it now has been canceled. It does also go ahead and show us that it is canceled here. And then in the actual feed for the contact as well, it shows us that it is canceled over there as well. Okay, so that is going to be the second way that you can actually cancel appointments without having to actually go into the actual contact page. Finally, you are going to see that you can also cancel via the calendar tab. So let me show you what that looks like if I go over to calendars. So that's going to be the calendar tab there. It does show us all of our appointments. And the really cool thing about the calendar tab is that it also does show us all of the appointments that we've canceled. So check this out, that Elon Musk appointment that we canceled, that LeBron James appointment, that Dwayne Johnson appointment, that does show us all the appointments that were canceled there. Now, if I wanted to ever bring them back, I could always go ahead and hit edit. And then actually, I don't even have to hit edit there. I could actually change the status from what I saw. Give it a second right here. Let me see. Right here, when I had and clicked it, it did allow me to see the status right here. So I don't even have to hit edit over here. I could just probably go in. Let me see if I hit confirmed. Does that change it? That'd be really cool if it does. Does it bring it back to life? Elon Musk there. Oh, check that out. It brought it back to life. That is pretty cool. Okay. So it does allow you to bring it back to life as well. But you can also, let's say, for example, this David John appointment, I wanted to go ahead and cancel it. Right here in the calendars tab, I go to status. I go ahead and do, it's not going to allow me to change it to canceled here. It only allows me to do confirmed and unconfirmed. So I got to go ahead and hit the pencil icon. And then once I hit the pencil icon, I go to status here, canceled here, save appointment here. And then just like that, it is going to go ahead and cancel that appointment. It's going to show me that it is crossed out once that goes ahead and loads. And it is also going to go ahead and delete that appointment that was located right over here inside of Google Calendar also. How cool is that? Very, very cool, right? And so this is going to be kind of the main methods of being able to go ahead and cancel appointments inside of the business platform. Now, in terms of making appointments and making changes to your appointments via Google Calendar. Now, technically, could you also come in here and say, cool, I'm just going to go ahead and delete it right here, right? Yes, you could do that as well. However, we would recommend, and I said this in a previous training, we're going to go ahead and make it very clear. We would recommend not deleting client appointments and not deleting booking calendar appointments from Google Calendar. We would recommend that you always use the methods that we've gone ahead and talked about. In this case, let me see, I have to reload this very quickly because it looks like it was taking a little bit longer to load, is that we would recommend that you do not mess around with these booking calendar appointments from Google Calendar, that you actually go ahead and do them via the methods that we've talked about, the conversations tab, the calendars tab, the contact page. That is going to allow all of the notifications, all of the emails to be much more synchronized, so that way you're not messing around with it there, okay? So as a general rule, Google Calendar is going to be for personal appointments and time blocking, right? So things like gym, lunch, I got to do this. This is a test that we had created. I'm going to go ahead and change that, right? All of those you do from Google Calendar. And then scheduler appointment management, booking, rescheduling, canceling, all of that, that is going to happen inside of ClientKit. Does that make sense? Very important when we were talking about the system and the strategy that we're walking you through. And so you want to make sure, hey, please, this is an action step, okay? I can't believe how much, like, part of being an educator, part of being, this side of the training here is like, some of it is just begging. It's like, come on, please, you're a student. Please make sure that you go through and test it. Don't just be like, yeah, okay, cool. I watched the video. I saw what he did and that's it. Because guess what? It might look different on your side and you're not going to know if it looks different until you actually get into doing it. And guess what? You don't want to wait until it's actually important. And then all of a sudden everything's on the line and then it's not working the way that you want it to work, right? Maybe your integrations aren't working the way that we've shown inside of this training. And so what you want to do is book a couple of appointments with yourself, make sure that they show up on Google Calendar, and then test each of the 3 different ways that we've talked about. Try the conversations tab, try the calendars tab, try the contact page. Go out there and test it with yourself to make sure that you're canceling appointments. Make sure you get those reps in. And then make sure that you understand, like, hey, this is how it all works, okay? Because ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot that you can do with these tools. There's a lot that is capable. But that's the reason why we're not doing this whole Frankenstein duct tape monster thingamajig, right? We're walking you through a very simple, elegant system and strategy, so that way it all comes together. So this has been this training section on canceling appointments. We will catch you on the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section. We're going to talk about how to actually reschedule appointments. This is different than canceling appointments. It's actually rescheduling an existing appointment. There's quite a few methods on how to actually do that. So we're going to go ahead and walk you through some of those foundational methods inside of the business platform. So method number 1 is rescheduling using a link. Now, this is actually going to be the only method that is called an automatic method, meaning this is something that the client can actually do or the contact can actually do on their end. So let me explain to you what this means. Inside of these events, so let's say, for example, Elon Musk over here, right? Elon Musk on his side is going to be getting a reschedule link, okay? So this link right here, I'm going to go ahead and copy it. We see it on our side, but that way Elon can see it on his side as well. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'll open this up inside of an incognito window. What this is going to do is it's going to allow Elon to actually go ahead and reschedule his appointment using that link. Okay. Now this link is a specific link for this specific event. Now let me show you how all of this works over here. Okay. If I go over to settings, and then I go over to calendars, and then I go over to the actual calendar. So Elon has booked on the 101 NutriFit consult calendar, right? So I go over here, I click on edit, and then I go over here to notifications and additional options. These additional notes that show up right over here, this is what is controlling what is shown up inside of the actual notes of the actual event, okay? And so what this link is, this link right here is the reschedule link, and this is called a token, okay? And this token is specifically used to generate a link specific to that event, okay? Now, there is also a cancellation link. We did go ahead and talk about that in the cancellation training, in which the client, so Elon, can actually click on this link in order to actually cancel his appointments. You see over here, cancel meeting. He has to then go in and put a cancellation reason. I got busy creating Teslas, okay, over here. And so then he can cancel the appointment, and so he can do that on his side. And so that's the first method that we want to go ahead and show you in terms of how to reschedule using the link via the actual link that is specific to the event that is put there based off of the additional notes. Now, this token, when we show you how to send out custom text messages, how to send out custom emails, how to send out automated emails, these are the same tokens that we're going to walk you through, so that way you can actually put this reschedule link inside of the actual email that Elon gets. You can actually put this reschedule link anywhere you have communication with Elon, is that you can actually use this token. token to be able to do that. Okay, so that is the first method that is very good to be familiar with, is using the reschedule link. And again, this is the only one that allows the contact to do it on their side. The next one that we can do is we can actually change that same appointments via the contacts page. Now, we can either go to the contacts page by going over to back, contacts, and then clicking on Elon Musk that way, or we can also go ahead and hit Command K or the search bar over here and then click on Elon Musk that way, right? So either way, totally fine. You want to be familiar with both. And then what we can do is we can click on appointments here on the right side. And then what it's going to do is it's actually going to go ahead and show us. Now over here, it's not showing anything. So sometimes if it takes a little while, it takes a little while to load, and then you can always refresh it if necessary. What you can do is you can actually go ahead and reschedule. You go ahead and edit this right here, right? The little pencil icon. And then once you go ahead and click that little pencil icon, let's say, for example, Elon says, hey, you know what? He wants to actually meet a little bit earlier with me. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. You can either do a custom one or you can do a default one. And so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do a default. Default means that this is according to the settings of the calendar. Custom means I'm going to go ahead and create this totally custom, not based on any of the calendar settings, right? So in this case, I'm going to do a default. And then, for example, I'm going to go ahead and move this a little bit earlier. Let's say we want to move this to the 22nd, and I wanted to go ahead and move this to 12 p.m. on the 22nd. That's in my time zone. And then over here, this is Elon. And then over here, I could also move it custom, right? So let's say, for example, this is 22nd. I said, what did I say? I say 22nd. And then I said at 12 p.m. And then I hit save appointment. And that is now going to actually go ahead and make the changes where Elon's appointment is now, you see, moved earlier to the 22nd. And so this is going to be the second method to actually go ahead and reschedule using contact page, is going to be by going ahead and doing it the way that we just showed you. Okay. Next up is going to be that you can actually reschedule using the conversation section. So if I go over here, go to conversations, I go over to all, I go over to Elon, I click over here, calendars, it shows me that appointment there. And let's say, for example, because Elon's a busy guy, he said, hey, I need you to go ahead and move this. So I said, okay, cool, no problem. I'm going to go ahead and move this for you now. I'm going to move it over to Friday. And on Friday, we're going to meet at 1 p.m. I go ahead and save the appointment. As I save the appointment, check this out, give it a second, and then it is going to go ahead and boom, just like that, jump over here to Friday, right? So it does have that integration, so that way it shows up on the Google Calendar automatically as well, okay? So that is going to be method number 3, which is rescheduling using the conversation section, and then also over here, rescheduling using the calendar tab. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of an advanced one on this one, because at this point, you kind of get the system, is let's say, for example, we're here under Elon Musk, okay? Now, Elon Musk, I click on edit, and I'm here on the calendar tab, right? And then what I'm going to do is, instead of doing default, I'm actually going to do a custom appointment. Let's try something else here, okay? Let's go over. I'm going to set this on Saturday, okay? And I'm going to set this on Saturday, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this on Saturday, and I'm going to do this as a custom. I'm going to actually book this over something that is blocked off here. So this is how the custom appointments actually works, and it's very, very helpful to learn this, okay? Is that over here, let's say, for example, night, 6 p.m., but Elon's very busy. I'm going to make an exception for him, and I'm going to meet him at 7 p.m. at night. So what I do is I go over here, set it to custom, 7 p.m., okay? And then I go ahead and save appointment. And because of the fact that this is a custom time slot, you're going to see that, boom, just like that, it actually moved it over to 7 p.m. Now, normally, if I was doing it via the default, it would not allow me to do that, right? Because the default doesn't show times that are blocked off according to the Google Calendar or even according to the calendar settings. But the way that we did the custom, it actually allowed us to be able to go ahead and do that there, okay? So that is rescheduling using the calendar tab. And of course, if you go over to appointments, it's going to show you all of your appointments here. So you can actually edit them over here as well. So if I just click into, let's say, Elon's appointment, it's going to take me over to his contact tab, and I can go ahead and actually edit it that way as well. And I believe over here, I can hit view details, I can hit edit, I can also hit reschedule. So you'll see right here, it gives me that reschedule activity there, so I can reschedule that way. So quite a few different places that you can actually go in and reschedule appointments inside of the system. The point is to just be well versed on all of them, because which method are you going to use? Depends on the situation, depends on the use case. So that's why we're just exposing you to the foundational layers, the ABCs of how all of this is going to work. So that way it's very easy for you to be able to do this. Now, a couple last points on here. Can you reschedule using Google Calendar? We've talked about this before. Yes, you can, but you do not want to do that, right? Could you just come over here and drag this? Could I come over here and just delete this? I could. But whenever you have client appointments, you want to make sure that you are doing that through ClientKit. Whenever you have Google Calendar appointments, you are doing that through Google Calendar, right? So I can move these around. but I do not want to move these around. No bueno. I do not want to do that, okay? Very, very, very important and an important reminder for that, okay? Now, next up, this is your action step from this training section. Go out there and test this yourself. Go book an appointment and go through each of the different methods. See, hey, how does the reschedule link work? How does the actual rescheduling to the contact page work? How does it work through the conversions tab? How does this work using the calendar tab? Do each of the different methods, because I promise you, if you wait until you actually need these features, you're going to be like, oh, dang, it's not working the way that I thought it was going to work. And then you're going to be stuck. And so you want to make sure that you're doing the repetition so that way you can actually go out there and be successful and have this as a skill on how to be able to run your business. I hope that makes sense. Please, please, please do not procrastinate. Make sure that you actually go through all of this and you actually learn all of the different ways to reschedule appointments. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been this training section on how to actually go ahead and reschedule appointments. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training step in which we're going to be talking about creating specific calendars. So everything that we've gone over in the previous training sections was really a walkthrough because this is the first time that you are going through all of this. So what we want to do is we wanted to go ahead and walk you through the general foundational ABCs of a scheduler and the booking calendar, right? So that way you understand exactly how it works. Now, what's going to happen is that sometimes you have specific use cases and specific booking calendars for specific types of meetings, right? So for example, you might have a consultation calendar. Now, when you have a consultation calendar, you might want to have a form on your website that when somebody fills out that form, they actually get redirected to the booking page so that way they can actually go ahead and schedule an appointment with you, right? And there might be some specific custom instructions on how they're going to go ahead and actually do that. So you're going to need a custom, specific, separate independent booking calendar scheduler for that purpose. And so what we're going to go ahead and do now is that in the upcoming training sections, right? So right now, remember, right now you're in one training section. What's going to happen is in the training sections right after this, we are going to go ahead and one by one in each of their own individual training sections, walk you through some of these specific booking calendars that you can go ahead and create. Now, just a quick warning on this, okay? You do not necessarily have to set up all of the booking calendars that we are about to walk you through, okay? It depends on what your use case is and if you see that you want to go ahead and create or set that one up. So the big key thing here is do not be overwhelmed by this because sometimes we see students who just want to be spoon-fed or just want to follow blindly and they're like, oh, you know what? I just did what was in the training and now I'm overwhelmed. Well, obviously because you didn't think about it in terms of, hey, do I actually need this for my specific situation? And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through specifically, let's say the consultation calendar. That's probably going to be one that you want to get set up. The onboarding kickoff call calendar, the welcome call calendar, those are going to be the ones that you want to go ahead and set up as well. Now the in-person calendar and the coaching call calendar, that's up to you if you decide that, you know what, you actually have a reason to be able to go ahead and set those up. And so obviously if you successfully do qualify to be able to go ahead and keep your student status active for this program, then you are going to be able to go ahead and have these trainings for a very long time to be able to come back to as long as your student status with the actual institute, with our school and our program is active. Then you can obviously come back to these trainings and set it up then, right? So you don't have to go out there and have hundreds of booking calendars and just get lost, right? And so at the end of the day, you do know now, because of the fact that we went through the previous training sections, how to set up a generic booking calendar as well. So you can just go ahead and have a generic one and just use one, whatever as well, right? And so the point is that the booking calendar is meant to be used. The point is not to just have a whole bunch of booking calendars. You can just kind of stick to just one or two or three and then just go ahead and use that only. So with that being said, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and in the next training section, we're going to walk you through the specific booking calendars one by one. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into those next training sections and walk you through how to be able to set those up. We will catch you in that training section. All right, welcome to this training section that's going to be talking about setting up the specific booking calendar of the consultation calendar. Now, this is going to be one of those specific booking calendars that we do recommend everyone set up. So there are some that are like, you know what, this might be optional, but this specifically one is going to be one that is very important to actually go ahead and get set up. So that way you can make sure that you are booking consultation calls, you can book, sales calls, you can book these kinds of things. This is this booking calendar's purpose that is going to be extremely helpful for you. Again, some of the benefits of having a booking calendar specific to this is so that way, as your business grows, you're not spending admin time having to go back and forth with a client. You have a streamlined booking calendar for somebody to go ahead and book on your calendar. So that's what is allowed with these schedulers and these auto schedulers. That's why it's so helpful and beneficial to have these. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the actual step-by-step for this. What we are going to go ahead and do is we are going to go ahead and go over to settings. And then we are going to go over to calendars inside of our ClientKit account. Okay. And remember, you do want to make sure that you are using the Google Chrome profile for your business. And then you can have ClientKit bookmarked on there. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go over to calendars here and we're going to go ahead and create a calendar. Okay. And then just like we talked about before in the general overview, we are going to recommend that you do go ahead and use the round robin calendar here. And then once you have that, what you are going to go ahead and do is we would recommend that you go ahead and name it one of these names, right? So one-on-one consultation, game plan session, strategy session. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and use Body Forge strategy session. Okay. And then the team members is going to be myself over here. It's going to say John Doe. Over here, we're going to go ahead and put, let's say Body Forge, let's do strategy. Let's just do SS maybe. That could be the slug there. Now, in terms of the actual detailed breakdown, what we are going to do is we're going to go over to advanced settings. And then one by one, we are going to go ahead and do this together over here. Okay. Now, the meeting invite title over here, you do want to go ahead and put the meeting invite title. So Body Forge strategy session. We like to do that so that way it shows up in our Google Calendar very, very easily, very nicely on there. Okay. Next up, we are going to go to availability. Again, we're going to go ahead and leave these pretty open, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sure. That's perfectly fine. That now, unless you're doing calls a little bit later, so you might want to go ahead and actually, make this a little bit wider if you are going to go ahead and do that as well. Recurring meeting. This is not going to be a recurring meeting. Meeting interval. Now for the meeting interval, we are going to go ahead and actually set this at 45 minutes and then the slot interval. Again, it's all located in the guide. So if you ever have any questions as to what happened in the training, you can reference the guide as well. So the slot duration, 45 minutes, slot interval is 1 hour. So in this case, slot and meeting, I believe they've gone ahead and changed the names. That's what software companies do. They change these around. So the interval here is going to be for 1 hour. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set this at 1 hour right over here. And then this is going to be set for 45 minutes. Okay, beautiful. Now the minimum scheduling notice we're going to have is going to be 4 hours minimum. And then the date range is going to be 3 days. So we're going to put 3 days right there. And then what we're going to do is none, 1, and then buffer time. We don't need to have anything there, right? We can then go ahead and click save from there. Now, one thing I did not mention in the video, but that was inside of the guide that's going to be very important is when you go over to meeting details, over here where the meeting location is, this is going to be where in the Google Calendar invite, this is where the actual meeting is going to happen. Okay, so you can go ahead and set this if you want this to happen on Zoom, Google Meet, phone, full address. That's going to be available for you. So again, it's up to you to decide where that's going to be. We're just showing you the gist of how all of this is going to work. Okay, so we went over availability, forms, and payments. Let's go through this one by one. Okay, so selecting the form here, you're going to go ahead and leave that just as it is. The consent form, you can go ahead and actually turn that off. So that's not an issue there. You can turn that off there. And then from there, the confirmation page, you can go ahead and actually set that either to redirect URL or default. Now, in terms of the actual default confirmation page, we would recommend inside of the actual guide, we do have a message here that is very helpful instead of the default one that is on here. So it's going to be, thank you for scheduling your appointment. We look forward to speaking with you. Our team will be contacting you shortly to confirm your appointment. If that is relevant to you, you can go ahead and use that there. And then over here, auto confirm new calendar meetings. We're going to go ahead and leave that on as well. From there, we go ahead and click on save. That's now going to take us over to the next page. Now, what we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and turn everything off except for allow Google Calendar to send invitation. We want to make sure that that is turned on. And then we are going to go ahead and allow rescheduling, but we are going to go ahead and not allow cancellation. Okay. And then you'll see one of the cool things is that if we allow cancellation, it goes ahead and puts that cancellation link in the description. So that way it's available not only for us, but also for the client. But in this case, we are going to go ahead and not allow cancellation. So they do end up having to reach out to us if they want to cancel. So we can make sure that we are helping them and asking them, hey, why did you decide to cancel and all of that, right? So that's what we're going to go ahead and do over here. From there, we're going to go ahead and click on save. We are then going to go over here to customizations. Now here you can actually go ahead and change the actual widget. So if I go to preview widget, you'll see this is what it looks like. It's up to you if you want to go ahead and make some customization changes. We typically just go ahead and leave it pretty default, but again, it's completely up to you if you would like to go ahead and make any changes for that. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and hit save. And then what's going to happen here is that we do obviously have, just like we talked about in some of the other training sections, on how you can actually book appointments. So obviously now with the strategy session, you could go into here and go share and then do a scheduling link, permanent link right there. But what we're going to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and walk you through, again, planting seeds, opening doors in your mind around how you can do a contact form redirect. Now, let me go ahead and walk you through exactly what this looks like. What you could do is you could go ahead and grab the permanent link here. Okay, so I'm going to share, grab the permanent link just like that. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this tab here because I want to keep this just in case I need this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the form. So check this out. This is something new that maybe you haven't learned as a skill yet. I'm going to go over to sites. I'm going to go over to forms, and I'm going to go ahead and find the main website contact form right here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the settings on this main contact website form. So that way, when somebody actually submits this form, right? So on submit, instead of it giving them a message right over here, let me see if I can zoom in so you can see this right a little bit better, right? So right over here, what I did was I went over the form, I clicked on settings, I clicked on submit. Right over here, right now it's set as giving them a message, right? Instead of that, I'm going to say, you know what? I want you to open a URL once they submit this form. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste that permanent URL right over here. Now, if you don't know what I did, Command V is the hotkey keyboard shortcut for pasting, or Control V on a Windows, okay? Or you can just go ahead and paste just like that as well, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit save. All right. Now I'm going to duplicate this tab as well, just in case I need to come back. And I'm going to go ahead and test this to make sure that it is in fact working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to our website. So I'm going to go over to sites, go over to our website. I got our website right over here. I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I'm going to preview link. And what I'm going to do is I like to look at this in an incognito window. So I'm going to go ahead and open an incognito window just like that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down. Let's say, for example, I have my get started, right? So this is the form that is the main website contact form. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to head there, John Doe, and then just go ahead and enter in a phone number here. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and enter in an email address there. Cool. We got our consent over here. Awesome. Complete and send. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, if this works properly. So in that case, it looks like it did not work for us. For some reason, it shoot me back over here to the main screen. So what I'm going to do is let me go ahead and save this. Let me go ahead and make sure that it is in fact properly integrated, because sometimes it might not be. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and copy the form link, and let me test this a different way, and then we'll come back and test it on the main website. Okay, so we're going to come over here, and this is just the raw form right here, right? Just straight up the form. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Boom, boom, boom. And then we'll go ahead and enter in the email address over here. So johndoe@gmail.com. Now, let's see if it actually works now. If I hit next step, boom. Okay, cool. So it does work when it is just a calendar by itself. Okay, cool. So for some reason, it didn't work when it was on the actual website. Now, I'm going to go ahead and try this one more time and see if that actually changes now, right? Because I went ahead and clicked integrate. I also went ahead and hit save over here. And if it doesn't work, then we'll have to do some troubleshooting to see what might actually be going on. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and try, it's the same form everywhere, right? So let's go ahead and try this on over here. So let's do John Doe, do a phone number right here. And then we're going to do johndoe@gmail.com. And then let's see, complete and send. And let's see if it actually does anything. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's working. Now, this is where sometimes it gets frustrating. You're like, why isn't it working? So what we might have to do is we might have to go into the actual website editor and see, hey, why is it not actually working properly? And what that might actually be is we might just have to reintegrate the form here. So we go over the pop-up. This is the pop-up right here, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete the form. I'm going to go ahead and then re-add the form right over here. We're going to go to forms right here. I'm going to go ahead and select, this is going to be the main website contact form. Give it a second to populate. There we go. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit save, update SEO metadata. I'm going to go ahead and hit publish. And then what I'm going to do is once that is reintegrated, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page over here in my incognito window. And you'll see that that is showing up once again here. And this time we're going to go ahead and try this once again, because sometimes it just needs a refresh when you make such a big change like that, because it is a pretty big change for the form to like literally go to a different place. So sometimes you just have to reintegrate it. And then if I hit next step now, there we go. Look at that. It is working now. So I just wanted to show you how you can actually troubleshoot that way. It does actually go ahead and forward over to the permanent link that we went ahead and set it up. And so again, this is how you can now kind of understand how the tools are on the table. We've unlocked many doors in your mind as to, hey, how can you mix and match all of this and how all of this can actually come together to be something that is an extremely powerful tool for your business to be able to then integrate this on your website, be able to send this in different places. So it's very, 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 very powerful. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been this specific training on actually going ahead and getting the strategy session or the consultation calendar, booking calendar set up. Again, Whether you decide to set it up exactly like this is completely up to you. We just wanted to go ahead and walk you through potential ways that you could go ahead and get it set up, and then also have their form redirect on there. So that has been this specific training section on the consultation calendar. If you do have any questions, if you come up with any amazing insights, any changes, any suggestions that you have, make sure you are dropping them in the community, because the community is the living, breathing place where all of the latest learnings are happening. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section. We're going to go ahead and walk you through how to set up an onboarding kickoff calendar. So what an onboarding kickoff calendar is basically also called a welcome calendar. What it is basically when, as soon as somebody goes ahead and signs up to become a customer, right? Imagine you got to go ahead and actually get them excited, right? You got to actually go ahead and get them as a part of your program. You need to be able to go ahead and onboard them properly, because all of their expectations are going to be set on that onboarding call. And you need to be able to make sure that you have some sort of system to keep them hot. That is what it's called. It's usually keep them hot means, hey, how do you keep them activated? How do you not have them have buyer's remorse? And the way that you do that is by having an onboarding meeting. Now, we're going to have an entire separate training on onboarding meeting, where onboarding meetings go, what's the expectations that you should have. We're going to give you a whole bunch of different swipe files for the onboarding meeting as well, so that way you don't have to go out and create the slides for that. We're going to give you the best practices, plug and play. However, for right now, I just want to go ahead and let you know exactly what an onboarding meeting is and what this calendar is used for, if it is going to be something that you're going to be setting up for yourself and your business, which is highly recommended. Now, it is important to have your onboarding calendar be completely separate. And the reason why you want it to be completely separate than maybe your strategy session or your consultation calendar is because you're actually going to have separate automations for this in an upcoming training. And so it's going to be very important that you have your own kickoff call calendar. Okay. Now, in a previous test, I did also make this welcome call calendar. I am just going to go ahead and delete this calendar for right now, because I don't want it to be confused with the calendar that we're going to go ahead and create, because that was just a fluff calendar. But the biggest point is that having this onboarding calendar is going to be a big game changer, especially when this entire system goes live, because then we're going to walk you through how to create automated emails and text messages that are going to go out to that client when they are making an appointment on this specific calendar. And that's going to be extremely beneficial. So this is going to be one of those calendars that you do for sure want to make sure that you are setting up, because you don't want to end up losing clients before they even begin. So with that being said, let's go ahead and set up this calendar together. So we are going to go over to settings, calendars inside of ClientKit. Of course, we are inside of your Google Chrome work profile. We've gone ahead and bookmarked ClientKit. We're going to go ahead and click on create calendar. From there, of course, we're going to go ahead and do the round robin, which is the strategy that we recommend. Now, in terms of the actual kickoff call calendar, you can actually go ahead and call this whatever you like. However, we have some recommendations. You can call this NutriFit kickoff call calendar. Okay, so sometimes we call it like that, and we just put KOC here. Sometimes KOC, boom. Team member is going to be yourself, right? Or if you have another team member doing this, this is going to be NFW kickoff call. So NFW NutriFit Wellness. Obviously, you're not going to put NFW, right? So whatever slug you want to put, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit advanced settings. From here, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. You'll see if you want to go ahead and put it in a group, not necessarily required. We might talk about groups in a different training section later on. Meeting invite. Okay, so this is where we go ahead and put the actual title for this. We usually put space dash over here, and then this is going to be NutriFit kickoff right over here. Now, I don't know why I put calendar. I didn't want to put calendar. There we go. NutriFit kickoff call. There we go. That's what we want it to look like. Now, this is going to happen on Zoom. Now, I don't know where you are in terms of whether you decide to do your meetings on Zoom or Google Meet or phone or full address. That's going to be up to you to decide, to be able to go ahead and create that for yourself. But this is going to be where you go ahead and change that and decide what your meeting location is going to be. From there, we're going to go ahead and hit save. Next up, we have our availability. Now, when it comes to availability, typically we are going to go ahead and leave our availability pretty wide open if you are going to be taking kickoff calls, pretty much throughout the entire day. However, of course, there are specific cases in which you decide, you know what, I want to only do kickoff calls in the mornings. If that's the case, you'd have to come over here and change this, right? But if you go ahead and leave this wide open, right, even if you make it like 4 a.m. to like something crazy like, 10 p.m. or something like that, and you go ahead and apply that pretty much to everything, what's going to happen is that it is going to be managed over here on your Google Calendar side of things. And so you don't really have to worry about somebody booking at like 2 o'clock in the morning, because of the fact that it's only going to show by default all the availability that is inside of your Google Calendar. And we've talked about that previously, right? Now, in terms of the actual settings for the meeting intervals, this is actually going to be very important, okay? So what you're going to do is this is going to be a 45-minute duration with a 1 hour interval, okay? So it's going to be 1 hour interval right over here with a 45-minute duration. Now, minimum scheduling notice on here, you can go ahead and put this. Typically, we just do like 4 hours is typically what we like to do it. Obviously, you can make that and adjust that if necessary for yourself. In terms of days that you can book out, typically we do provide 21 days out because it is a onboarding call. It's a little bit different than a sales call. Sales call, you don't want to have booked out 21 days out. That's terrible. But for an onboarding call, 21 days, not a bad idea. And then over here, obviously maximum bookings per day, you can leave that blank. Maximum bookings per slot per user, you can go ahead and leave that to 1. We're going to go ahead and click on save from there. Next up, we're going to go ahead and get into forms and payments. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to go ahead and we can turn off the consent checkbox on here. Now, typically they already have gone ahead and checked this off when they first filled out a form on our website or something like that. So we can actually turn that off, not necessary here. And then the confirmation message, this is actually going to be important, right? So we don't want to have this default message here. We do in the guide have a specific message that is recommended to use. So we're going to go ahead and put that right over there. And then auto confirm new calendar meetings, we're going to go ahead and leave that on. We're going to go ahead and next go to save. And then we get into notification settings. So in notification settings, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and leave everything off, except this is going to be important. Allow Google Calendar to send invitations. Very, very, very important. And then we're going to go ahead and allow rescheduling, but we are going to turn off cancellations. And now for the actual additional notes, this is actually very important. This is why it's specific to the kickoff call calendar. We actually have a specific verbiage around this. Okay, so you can go ahead and copy that verbiage and paste that there. And there's a little kind of arrow there. You can actually drag that down if you want to make this a little bit bigger to see this much larger. And then you can see, okay, let me go ahead and paste there. There we go. And so it says kickoff call homework. This is going to be, if you have a link to kickoff call homework, which again, this is going to be something we help you set up in a different training. We're actually going to build it out for you. So it's copy and paste, and you can literally just have a link to what is called a kickoff call homework, or a keep them hot homework is another way to say that, which is, hey, what is the homework? What is the thing that you're going to give them in between the sales call or in between the time that they actually, sign up for your program or join your company as a customer and the time that their kickoff call happens? How are you going to keep them busy? What are you going to give them as the next action steps before that call? That is what is known as the kickoff call homework. Now, if you do not have that, right, then obviously you don't have to put that in right now. And then obviously right here, if you'd like to reschedule, shoot us an email at support@. So this is what you can use if you want to go ahead and put this here. Now, if you don't want to put this right now, you can actually just backspace and just use the default as well, if that's what you want to use for now. However, we just wanted to go ahead and walk you through that, hey, this is the verbiage that we typically use for our companies once we are up and running and we have the kickoff call homework and all that kind of stuff. But again, if you maintain your active student status inside of the Institute, then you will be able to come back and just use this in the future because you will have this training as a reference for yourself, okay? So that makes sense there. We're going to go ahead and click on save. And then, of course, you can do customizations if you'd like to change the color, if you want to have a calendar cover image. They actually have, ClientKit just came out with this, they actually have non-copyrighted images that you can actually go ahead and just, search a word and then have images show up there. But the key thing here to know is that these images only show up in the group view, so they won't appear on the individual calendar link, so they're not as useful for our purposes. But again, I just want you to know that that is available there. And then we go ahead and hit save. And then guess what? Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, you now have your kickoff call calendar, and then all the different ways that we talked about booking calendars. We talked about automatic booking calendars and manually booking calendars. If you haven't watched that training section, that'll walk you through all the different ways that you can now book clients and contacts onto this calendar, right? So you got the link option, you got the calendar tab option, you got the conversations tab option, you got the contact page option, so many different options to book calendars all over the place. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be how you actually go ahead and get your onboarding kickoff call calendar set up. Very important. Make sure that you follow along and do go ahead and get that kickoff call calendar set up, because we are going to be using it when we go ahead and talk about setting up automations and setting up automated emails and text messages and all that. So it is going to be very important for you to make sure you have a separate independent calendar that is your kickoff call calendar. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an awesome training. You're doing a phenomenal job. Keep up the good work. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section that's going to be talking about the advanced calendar option. So what we've gone ahead and done in a whole bunch of other training sections, we've already walked you through the traditional calendar options, right? So kind of the normal calendar options that you're going to be typically using 80 to 90% of the time. We've already gone ahead and walked you through those. However, in this training section, we're going to be talking about some of the advanced calendar options. Now, we will be quite frank with you. We talk about how this is a community-based program, and we are just sharing with you not only what we have experienced, but what we have learned from other people in the community, right? Because all of us as a community are helping each other get up the mountain, right? And so these trainings and these courses are really just the best practices that have been consolidated and learned from the entire community as a whole. And so what we are about to show you right now is some things and some settings that we ourselves have not even experimented or played around with. And so that is why we did not include them in the system or in the strategy yet, because we have yet to figure out exactly what the best way to use these are, right? And so this is the reason why the community is so valuable. But what we're going to do right now is we're just going to go ahead and plant the seed in your mind as to what are some of the other calendar features that are possible inside of ClientKit. So that way, at least you know that they're there. And then maybe as you're going through and running your business, you're like, oh, you know what? This would be the perfect thing that I needed for this, right? So let's go ahead and talk about that. If you are here under calendar settings, which again is under settings, calendars, you're going to see that we have over here calendars, but then there's also groups, service menu, rooms, and equipment. Now, let's go ahead and walk through some of these other advanced use cases, okay? So we got groups over here. Groups are kind of like folders to be able to go ahead and organize your calendars, but the other cool thing is that there is actually a group booking page that allows you to be able to see all of the calendars within that group. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean by this. Okay, so if I go ahead and create a group, and then I go ahead and say that this group, I'm going to go ahead and put it as test group for now. Okay, and then template. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this NFW test group. Okay, again, just a random slug that I'm going ahead and putting. Now from there, I'm going to go ahead and hit create. Now from here, what I can do is you'll see that inside of the test group, I don't have any calendars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let's just say I go into one of the calendars. I'm going to go ahead and assign it to the test group, hit save on that one. And then once that hits save, I am then going to go ahead and close this out. I am going to then put also this other calendar in that group because I want to show you what and how groups actually work, because there are some very beneficial use cases for groups that might be helpful for you. Okay, so you'll see on here, we now have two calendars that are inside of the group. And then what we can do is we can come over here and we can actually copy, let's say we copy the permanent link for the group, okay? I then go ahead and open this up into an incognito window. And what you'll see is that right over here, we have our group, and this is what is called the group booking page. And so now if you were to go ahead and send to a client or a customer or a prospect this page, they would then be able to select, hey, do I want to book a Body Forge strategy session? Or do I want to book a NutriFit kickoff call, right? And so that is one of the use cases of how a group can actually be used is for the actual booking page. Okay, so again, what use do we have for this inside of the strategy that we recommend? Right now, we haven't really found an exact use case for this, but we're planting the seeds and unlocking the doors in your mind as to some of the other advanced features of the tool. So that way you can actually go ahead and utilize them if you need them in the future, okay? Next up you have over here is service menu. Now, what is a service menu? Service menu is basically where you can create service calendars, and you can actually create a service menu. So let's say, for example, somebody who's going to purchase services from you. Like, so imagine there is a salon or a barber, right? And what that does is it allows them for somebody to have a service menu where they can go ahead and say, okay, cool, I want to purchase this haircut, or I want to purchase hair extensions, or I want to purchase, haircut, barber, and beard, or, something like that. You can actually go ahead and use the service menu so that way people can purchase different services from you before they book their appointment. That is how that would work. And so you can actually go in and create a service menu, and then you can go ahead and go through all of the different settings for that. Now, again, we're just planting the seeds. We actually have never used service menu at the time of recording this training, so we don't know the specifics of it, but I'm sure there's going to be some amazing, super smart people who are in the community who are going to be able to contribute. And one of those people is probably going to be you. I'm sure you're going to maybe go in, and as you go ahead and, explore with the tool a little bit more, maybe you come across the need for a service menu, and then you can go ahead and use it there, right? Rooms over here is used when there is a certain businesses that have specific rooms. So let's say, for example, a room can represent any location where services are provided. So in simple terms, a room is a specific place in your business where you conduct services. So for example, a salon might have massage rooms, salon chairs, workout areas, pedicure stations. And so all of these are going to be different rooms that you then have to keep track of when somebody is booking appointments, so that way you don't have an overlap. So that way each and every single one of your salon chairs can actually have its own room, and then when somebody books, it's going to go ahead and actually make sure that there's no double booking of the same rooms that are going on there. Again, what is the use case that we know inside of the existing system and strategy? We don't know yet. However, down the road, if we do find best practices, or actually if the community finds best practices, we're then going to be able to go ahead and create perhaps trainings for that. But again, all of the most up-to-date ways to use the system and the strategy are are going to be inside of the community. Last up here, we do have equipment. So equipment is going to be exactly what it sounds like. Is if you have equipment, right? Think of special tools or devices that a business uses in order to be able to run their services. So any fancy machine or even a simple chair, right? So for example, imagine like there's a hyperfacial machine that's used during a facial appointment and you only have 3 of those. And you can only book calendar appointments to each of those machines. And so you need to be able to know, hey, when those 3 machines are booked up, don't let somebody book them at the same time slot. That is how you can actually keep track of different pieces of equipment inside of the actual calendar and scheduler. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the different tabs for the advanced settings for calendars. Next up, I do also want to go ahead and walk you through some of the different actual scheduling types that exist on here as well. So there is a service calendar. Now, service calendar is good when you're going to actually have clients pay directly for a service through a calendar, right? So it's very similar to, you have service calendars and then you got service menus, and those work together hand in hand. From there, next up, you are going to have a simple calendar. Okay. Now, this calendar over here, this is the basic option of a calendar. Now, in our opinion, we've always used Round Robin because of the fact that it allows you to be able to manage sync on the global level. Because the con of the simple calendar is that it requires for you to set up the central Google Calendar integration and syncing on a per calendar basis, which is actually quite bothersome and annoying. And so that's the reason why when we were putting together the system and the strategy, we said, you know what, it's much easier even for ourselves to do this on the global level. So that's the reason why we do not a lot of times use simple calendar. However, there might be some use cases that you decide, down the road you want to experiment with. Sure, no problem there, right? Round Robin, this is going to be the one that we typically use most often, right? The one that we recommend the most often because it allows us to set up the central Google Calendar integration on the global level, which is very helpful. After that, we are then going to have class booking. Now, class booking is actually just a round robin calendar in which multiple people can book one appointment slot, but then they can actually go ahead and book in the same appointment slot, right? So imagine you're going to have a group session, or you're going to have a group class, or you're going to have something like that. Class booking is going to be extremely beneficial for that, and also does allow you to be able to charge for those appointments in class booking as well, right? And so, of course, inside of ClientKit, they do have a description for that. This is contacts can schedule a meeting with a single person on your team. So that way there's multiple people who can go ahead and schedule with a single person. And then finally, you have over here is collective booking. This is going to be scheduling meetings with multiple team members. So let's say, for example, you have somebody who is a contractor or an employee who needs to meet with you and your business partner, or you and somebody else who is an employee in your company. That is what that can be used for when you want to have multiple people from your company meet with a single contact. Okay. Now, typically in our industry, we don't use a lot of this. However, we do, again, want to open those doors up and plant those seeds if there is ever a use case for you to be able to go ahead and use that. Now, as we close out this training, I do want to go ahead and remind you, like, hey, how and when am I going to use these advanced settings and all of this stuff that we just talked about? Well, guess what? We don't know. This is why we have a community, right? And this is why there is no guru on the mountain who has all the answers. This is all of us helping each other up the mountain. We are giving and asking, we are sharing. And so that way we're planting these seeds. So that way there's going to be some awesome, innovative students. There's going to be some business owners who say, hey, you know what? I'm going to play around with this feature, and this is going to be very handy for me to actually be able to go ahead and use. And then they're going to find some best practices. And then this is where I'm going to go ahead and make it very clear. You want to share those best practices as you are learning, right? You're documenting the journey as making posts inside of the community. So that way you're able to share, and then other people are going to do the same, and you're going to be able to learn from other people. Other people are going to be able to learn from you. And it is a symbiotic relationship in which you're all helping each other. It is going to be extremely, extremely important as we are all learning together. Because guess what? We're not the gurus in the mountains. We're just the people who go ahead and accumulate all the learnings that we see from the community. But at the end of the day, the learnings are going to come from you and what the other community members are going to actually go ahead and share. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is this training section on the advanced calendar options. Now you actually can go out and experiment and play around with them. Or if you ever find any use cases for these, then you can go ahead and do that as well. With that being said, we will catch you on the next training.